Alrighty. I'm continuing once again to beat the tower. Last night I played a really long time doing the trick of making the fairy respawn, and that seemed to be the best way to handle things. Um, so I'm gonna do that again. I'm imagining it won't take as long to get where I was because of having more experience with higher levels. Oh, also, actually, I am curious to look at how this one person handles floor 43 for a second, if you don't mind. Oh wow, if you just gun it, you don't have to worry about the walls at all. Okay, that's nice to see. Like if you just do the super jump from the floor a bunch of times, you don't have to worry about the walls at all. All right. That that makes me feel a lot better. Anyway, uh yeah, I'm going to continue the podcast system speak from where I hit pause last time in the middle of this specific one, the bus stop. If it's gonna let me, I might need to refresh the page.
The therapist and
Okay.
saying, this is what we could do. And so, what he is offering is for us to work to help create the theater space like we've always talked about, but just inside. And he says that, like, even when we go to see his plays or his shows or his musicals or whatever, that like we could gather in this place so that everybody could watch them and everybody could enjoy like that part of our relationship with him, which is kind of cool actually. Like, is that even possible? Is that a thing? But what he's saying is that this building would need, just like if we did it in real life, where we had other places, like where we lived above the theater, it would need other things that all of us need to function and feel safe. So, like that, I could create my own room and my own place, and the littles could have their own spaces and the things that they need, and Katie could have an art room and a studio and all the things that she needs. Dr. E could move her library there, all the things, so that we could all have a safe space, but all what we need and all be together. And he said we could even create like a meeting space where we come together for those meetings, but in a way we could all get there. And I was like, how do we do that? Because that seems impossible. And I don't know if it's even a thing. Like, can you do that? And so I said, that's what I said to him. I was like, can you do that? And he was like, do you know what he said? Okay, first of all, he's crazy and hilarious. But he was on to something. And okay, I, I know I'm not being coherent right now, but I don't know how to explain how this happened. So when we were in therapy and she put Christmas lights in there, we were like, what? Like, how did she even get in here? Like, how did that happen? But she did it. Like, she said it and it just happened. Like, it was magical, except not scary. Like, I don't understand what happened. But she did. And then she left a ladder and tools. And, like, what? And then when she rescued the girl and got the girl up to the attic so that she's at least with the other people and safe and not being hurt, even though it's not a safe place, like she figured out that it's not a comfortable place in the attic while she was in there. And I'm like, how do you know these things? I guess because she's a therapist, duh. But oh, but so she's like, but it's warm in here now, and there's a heater, and it's working, and also there are snacks, and also no one's hungry, and da da da, and all these things. I'm like, how did you do that? How did you just like speak it into being like some kind of god or Aslan in Narnia or something? Like, what happened? And so then the husband did the same thing. He was like, yes, this is a place and we're going to build it and da da da. And he got me all excited about it. And then I was like, but wait, how can we do that for real? We can't do that for real. And he was like, oh, yes, we can. Because if you look out your window and see across the street from the house, there's a bus stop. It's new, but there's a bus stop. So anyone who wants to come visit or help build or is actually ready to move is welcome to come anytime. They just need to ride the bus. How did he do that? He put it in a bus stop in my head. What the? What? I don't know how to process that. How did he do that? Because it makes my head hurt. So, like, now this is the thing. And so now he's sent an email for all of us to read about this idea and has sent it for us to talk to the therapist about. As if that's like not item 863 on the list of things to talk to the therapist about. But if we're getting fired tomorrow, then I don't even want to go. Like, that's scary. So, what is she mad about? I don't know if it's because so much is happening or because we're talking about this or think that some people are leaving or like the Taylors like are in a bad place. So, what if they think they'll be left there? And like we will go without them. Maybe that's why they're mad. Are they scared instead of mad? Like, oh man, I don't know. So much is happening so fast and my brain is processing like more than I know how to do by myself. So it's good that we have therapy tomorrow, but I don't even know who's gonna be there or what we're gonna talk about or how to catch her up as fast as everything that's happening, but also still actually do therapy, which is not the same as only catching up to what's happening. Is it? Or is that the same thing? I don't even know. I think we're failing therapy. Ugh. We can't mess this one up. Okay, so that's the husband, and that's his idea, and that's what he's talking about. And so I don't know if Taylor's all mad about that. Maybe she should just be the one driving the bus, and the bus doesn't leave until she's good and ready. Like, I don't know. I don't want her to crash the bus, though, you guys. Oh, my brain. I don't know how to make it 24 hours. In 24 hours, we will be back in therapy, for better or worse. And so one way or the other, it'll be over. I don't know. Except the roads are supposed to be wet and cold in the morning, which makes them not safe to drive on at 4 a.m. to get to therapy on time. Which means we have to drive all 4 hours today, even though we just got home from the airport last night. We have to drive 4 hours today to get there while the roads are still okay, so that we can be there for therapy and not miss it. But then after therapy, it's supposed to be warm enough. The roads are fine to get home. So that's the plan, is I guess we just move everything from one suitcase to a smaller suitcase and go to therapy and talk to her about it tomorrow, if she even lets us have an appointment. Like, I don't even know anymore. From what Taylor said. Also, I don't even know. Like, there's a lot to talk about Taylor, and this is probably not the time or place. Except she left a message and put it here, and I can't just take it out. She wanted it on there because that's where she left the message, right? So, like, how do we work together with that, or like honor that, or respect that, or whatever I'm supposed to be learning how to do? And why is there a bus stop? Like, how did that happen? This is so embarrassing. Oh, I don't even know. I'm not sure that we're getting better. I think maybe we're getting crazier. Like, maybe we're actually falling apart. I thought up until, well, the conference. Up until the conference, I thought we were doing really well. Like, I myself was proud of our progress, and I myself could tell you, here's how I know we're getting better. Da 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 da. But since conference and this morning, I am completely off the charts, don't understand what's happening, and overwhelmed, and like in shock is how I feel, but I don't know what I'm in shock about. I there's so much happening. We still need to talk about getting that girl out in therapy last week, like 10 days ago on the outside time, right? Because our appointment was on Monday, but we were coming home from conference yesterday, so we don't have therapy again until Wednesday. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about conference. We need to talk about the podcast. We need to talk about Taylor. We need to talk about the husband's idea. And none of that's happening in 2 hours. We couldn't even talk about one of those things in 2 hours. And we will probably spend 2 hours trying not to talk about any of it. So I don't know how we're supposed to do therapy. I think I can't. We need help. Maybe we need a therapist for therapy. Oh no, because that's kind of how our therapist got to us in the first place. Oh. You guys, this is really hard. It is really hard. And we're not even talking about hard stuff right now. I mean, everything on our list right now is good. It's good that Taylor's talking. It's good that the husband has an idea. It's good that the therapist helped rescue somebody. It's good that we went to a conference. But it all feels bad. How messed up is that? Like, what is wrong that everything feels backwards? It's like through the looking glass. Like we're in some kind of Alice in Wonderland messed up place where everything is backwards, and all this stuff that's good and all this stuff that's connection, all this stuff that's supposed to be helping and healing feels dangerous. And it's not. Like, I know this is good. Now time is safe. Like, that's legit. Right? Isn't it? Tell me it is. I don't know why it feels backwards. And I don't know how to calm down enough and long enough to stay in the process and not quit or run away. Like, it's really, really hard. Like, I feel like my skin is being pulled off. That was rather graphic. I'm sorry, but I don't know how else to describe it. That's what it feels like. I think maybe in therapy, we are either in the middle of a really big breakthrough or everything's about to fall apart. That's what it feels like. I think that's where we're at. And I honestly don't know which is which. Thank you for joining us with System Speak, a podcast about dissociative identity disorder. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes, or follow along on our website, www.systemspeak.org. Thanks for listening.
Not to brag or anything, but this feels really smooth. I'm like almost a 420 and haven't had any problems. I mean, the fairy helps a lot for me because it's like I don't have to stress so much. I'm just chilling. I was like kind of dreading it almost, even though I was excited to get going at it today. But I feel pretty chill about it. That might change later. Okay, I'm gonna play the next one. Ah. Right after I say all that. No, I'm fine.
Share your screen, browse web together, view documents together.
No, don't touch anything.
I'm not touching a thing. We
It's
just spent
working.
the last
Back,
minutes fixing this.
back off from the computer. Are you still there?
Of course I'm still here. I haven't touched anything.
Do not touch anything.
I listened to that podcast. That was a really good one.
Was it?
It was. I listened to them all, but that one was really good. It was insightful. And I appreciate that Taylor expressed her feelings.
Insightful?
Yes.
What are you talking talking about insightful.
Didn't you listen to it?
No, I don't listen to them.
Well, I mean, it was insightful in that she expressed that her feelings were being considered with the switching of the sessions at the conference.
Oh, yeah, that.
She expressed that she was upset because she wanted accommodations for hearing because she wants to learn and be a part of the process.
Ugh. I think a deaf person doing a podcast confuses people because they hear us talk and they know we have a podcast, and so they just assume that we can hear. But that's not the same thing at all. And we can do the interviews and talk like in the small group, or listen for the editing or watch for the editing or whatever with the cochlear implants and the Bluetooth stuff. But a big room like that, we can't hear well enough.
Well, and that's why I think she was frustrated, because she wanted to be able to be an active participant and learn and help.
Okay, we're not talking about her tonight.
Oh, okay, we're not allowed to talk about that?
Never.
Why?
I just can't. You're supposed to be asking me boring questions to distract me so that the hours pass until...
Let's go to that. We'll come back to that another day. Okay.
I have therapy tomorrow. My brain's about to explode.
Why?
Because maybe she hates us.
She does not hate you, Sasha.
Oh my goodness.
That's just your anxiety, like overthinking for you.
I do not have anxiety. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, whatever. Okay. Because your stuff,
Fuck.
like I have anxiety
Why
on
couldn't
my
I
things,
jump out of
and
that?
you have anxiety on your stuff, and your stuff pertains to like offending the therapist.
What?
Yes. You're so worried she's just gonna up and ditch y'all. She's not gonna do it. You're too awesome.
Well, hi. I missed you because we were at the conference and it was crazy.
I helped you through the conference, or did you miss that?
It was very kind of you. You were very supportive. You were a good little cheerleader.
Look, everything short of the pom-poms and the skirt, girlfriend, I was on it.
You have a gift for that. Like encouragement or something.
Yes, positive affirmations.
Well, there you go.
Yes, well, you needed them, and, you know, I have a no man left behind policy, so there's that. The only thing I'm upset about is that my friend who saved you from alligators and so on and so forth, airplanes, did not get the donut as big as his head. Okay, and I'm on Mission Donut.
No,
Real talk.
we cannot have donuts, seriously.
Why not?
It's a bad thing.
Oh, for the love of Pete. One treat every once in a while is okay.
Two things. Number one, we don't have a Pete. And number two, it is not about like calories or something.
Oh,
Why can I not jump?
You can put it at the bottom of the list for questions we're not answering today.
Of the 52. Okay. So, for the last podcast, we got a question and we forgot to answer it.
Oh, okay.
It's how old is the body?
36.
Fuck.
Right, and the body has a birthday soon, but we're not going to
I
talk
know
about
I'm
that.
suddenly
How
not
do
getting
you
gliding
know
and
that?
jumping.
No, we're not talking about that. You're so creepy.
I'm not creepy. You told me, you crazy girl. That does not make me creepy. That makes me a friend who listens to you when you tell me things, because we had a whole conversation surrounding it.
Yeah,
My
that's
God.
creepy.
Okay, well then you creeped yourself out on that one, because I can't help you when you share the information.
Yeah, stop being so nice. It's weird.
I'm sorry. Would you prefer I be hateful and creepy?
I know how to do hateful. I can handle hateful.
Oh, well, I'm glad you can, because I got something to say about that. Alright, so...
All this attentiveness is, whew, it's pretty difficult.
Really?
Okay, Okay, moving on. Next
People are
question.
being really loud in our place.
Oh, golly. You're so special. Okay.
Did you just call me special?
Yes, but special as in silly.
I don't know if you can hear him.
So, but, like, I don't know why you would want to go to, like, Africa.
I don't know. I was just trying to go to Kansas City. Africa was an accident.
So there was a question on the last podcast, and they said, are you going to have your therapist on the podcast?
Oh, no, my therapist will not ever be on the podcast, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not happening. She's a super private person, and we're super private people, and our podcast was an accident, but that's not her fault or her problem.
Well, and also, like, that's a HIPAA thing, too, so, like,
well,
it would be like...
It's not a HIPAA thing if we say it's okay, and if we are talking about ourselves, but no, she's just, like, I'm not even ever going to say her name or where we're at for therapy. I can think, it's like when you have a brother or a sister, right? Like, I can say that maybe she hates me and wants to fire me, and I can get all panicked about it, but if anyone else messes with my therapist, they're going down.
Your therapist is fantastic.
She's amazing. Except when I was talking earlier today on the other podcast about how, like, she works so hard and gets right to work, I made her sound really aggressive. And she's actually really careful about not pushing. So that was not a good presentation because I was focused on, like, one piece of things. But, like, she always will say, like, we have a choice. We don't have to do anything we don't want. And she's not going anywhere uninvited and things like that. Like, she's legit respectful.
Oh, listen, you were like, I don't know how she does this, and this. Dude, okay? Just an FYI moment, because the light bulb went off in my head when I thought about it for a hot second.
That must have been uncomfortable.
No, it didn't. It wasn't. It was great, because I am a plethora of files. Okay, so what went off in my head was psychotherapist, and one of the descriptions of their job is hypnotherapy.
What?
Yes.
What is hypnotherapy?
It's where you're, like, kind of in a hypnotic state.
She doesn't hypnotize us.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, like, that's the only way I can think that she would be able to put a ladder and a freaking hammer and all these good things in there. It's not a bad thing.
I don't know how she did it. I don't know. I can't tell you.
I mean, it would only be a bad thing if, like, in hypnotherapy, she said, okay, so every time you talk to Julie, you're going to have to, like, smack yourself in the face, you know?
No.
But I don't know, because then I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, well, the husband was able to put in a bus stop.
How crazy is that? What? I don't even know what to do with that.
Let's see. Oh, who is your favorite altar in the system and why?
No.
So we don't have a favorite in the system?
My favorite?
Yes.
Myself. Hello.
What about Cassie?
Oh, yeah, we ought not go there.
Okay. All right. Okay, here's another question. Do you have issues with the way the body looks on the outside versus how you look on the inside?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Because of the gray hair? Like, enlighten me.
Because of what?
The gray hair.
Oh, no, the
Wait,
gray
what?
hair
The
is
controller's
weird,
not
but there's not a lot
responding.
of it, but there's a lot more every day.
Well, I told you how to take care of that.
No, I don't care about the
It's
gray
never
hair.
happened before.
It's not that the gray hair is bad, it's that I forget it's there. And so it's like shocking every time I see it. But I don't care about that.
Me too, honey, me too.
No, well, okay, see, the truth of it is that we actually have ovarian cancer, and so I'm just glad to have any hair. Like, our hair is still growing back, and it's totally in the awkward, ugly stage, which was awesome for conference, by the way. But I'm just glad we have hair.
Oh, Sasha, I didn't know you were a survivor.
I am not a survivor of nothing.
Whatever. You're awesome. I just adore you. Okay. Yeah, a person in my immediate family had cancer, and you're right, like when it grows back after the chemo, it's kind of
I
patchy.
think I have to restart the game.
It's weird. Like, it's long enough now.
I don't know why the controller's suddenly not responding at all. That better not happen when I get further. See, now it's fine. That's never happened before. I don't know if I need to replace it. It has never happened before. So now I get to find out it does not save. I wish it did.
Just looks like it's cut short on purpose.
Like your game could crash or your cat could hit the power button.
And that bothers me.
Fire.
Oh, that was a question I was going to ask you. Do you have any siblings in the system?
I don't. You mean like inside, right?
That does not work.
That's a crazy good question. I don't have any siblings inside, but there are 2 girls inside who are littles who think that they are sisters and refer to each other as sisters. And it's really confusing because we have one who's actually called sister because of our brother. And so it gets confusing sometimes if you don't know that or aren't paying attention.
My golly, I learn something new every day. Okay, well, maybe they are sisters. Like, I've heard of other systems who have, like, brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And that's or, like, twins.
Yeah. We have maybe 2 girls that are like that.
That's interesting. Okay, what is your biggest challenge in being a part of a DID system?
Not getting fired from therapy.
I don't know why this is not going to happen.
My biggest challenge.
Like, real talk. That is not going to happen. Yeah, I'm gonna deviate for a minute with the queen of deviation. Or what is it? What did I say?
I am not a deviant.
No, not deviant. What is it? What's the word? It starts with a D. Come on, Sasha, help me out.
No way. So, I think things that are challenging obviously are taking turns and sharing and splitting up the time and doing what I want instead of what everyone else wants and not getting fired from therapy.
If you could co-front with anyone in the system, if you could co-front, who would you want to party with in the system?
You mean like someone else out with me at the same time?
Yes.
That trips me out. I don't know how to even consider that.
Okay.
I know it's a thing. I learned more about it at the conference and from group. So I get that it's a thing. And I know that we're supposed to work on paying attention or whatever. But that still is really weird to me. And I don't have a good enough grasp to be able to answer it. Also, I just don't like them.
That's not fair. Okay. I like them. Okay, so what is your favorite thing to do in the outside world besides hang out with the husband?
Ballroom dancing.
Really? You can do that?
Yes. Hotel hop? No, I'm just kidding. That's the week we've had. Call you, Julie, and not get fired from therapy.
Oh, I'm on one of your favorite things to do?
Fruitly.
I know. Look, she thought she got vaccinated, but what she realized was she couldn't get enough of me. What do you feel is your role in the system?
Next.
Okay. I didn't know that was such a touchy question.
job is to do the podcasts and to not get fired from therapy.
That is not just your job. Oh, goodness. We'll come back to that when
I think, no, honestly, okay, no, I'll go there. I'll take it.
Okay.
I can take it, Julie. Bring it.
Yeah, you can, because you're a hero.
I think that right now, I'm kind of a placeholder because a whole bunch of stuff went down. We started the podcast. All that stuff happened at Christmas with family services. And there were such hard adjustments for Emma and the one who's the mom with
Right.
getting into therapy, and I kind of came from all that.
Well, so you're awesome.
Clearly.
Your job is to handle business. That's really what it is.
Oh, I do not want to handle anybody's business. I want to hide everybody's business.
Oh, that's not true. Hey, I did meet the mom, though. Love her. She's super fantastic.
So boring.
Well, I gotta tell you, for a hot second, I thought it was you or Emma. Because sometimes you and I talk and you don't tell me, but I know it's you.
Yes, because I'm awesome.
Exactly. And so, but when she started talking about outside kids, that's when I was like, nope, that's not Sasha.
She's so depressed.
You think?
It's so, ugh. Why are moms depressed?
Well, you think about it, okay? Let me break it down for you as a mom, okay?
Okay.
So, as a mom of special needs kids, okay, so it's all consuming, right? Because you're doing medication, you're making sure they, at whatever appointment when they need to be there, you're making all their meals, right? You're feeding all the meals, you're doing all the baths, you're doing all the homework, you're dealing with all the teachers, you're dealing with, all of the superfluous stuff that comes with having kids, right? Which we sign up for when we become moms, right? But then you get into a situation where you don't get a break, right? Mom job is 24/7. And there's no vacay. It's not like you get to go out on dates. I can't tell you the last time I went on a date. When was the last time she got to go on a date?
She doesn't go on dates. I go on dates.
Right, but what if she'd like to go out sometime?
That's what the therapist said. Why do you always take her side?
I don't. I'm taking my side. I'd like to go out.
Okay, next question.
I'm just saying, you might want to put it in perspective and throw my girl a bone every once in a while. But the husband could do that too. But that's not my business. Okay. So. And I don't mean that mean. I'm just saying. Like, my husband could ask me out on a date too, but he ain't doing it. So there's that.
We get 2 dates a month. One night is like this church, not our church where we go, but another church who would really like to convert us. They they do a monthly respite night for special needs kids. And they take all of our kids once a month for like a whole evening. And then another night, once a month, they have some kind of parents' night out. Only they call it kids' night out to make the kids think it's cool. They don't know they're getting dumped.
Right.
And they go to the YMCA and they get to swim and watch movies in the pool.
Oh, that's cool.
So we get 2 date nights a month.
Okay, well, can he finagle like an extra in there?
No. That's not happening. Well, also our kids are really little and they're like all in bed by 7. Tonight they were in bed and asleep by 6:45. So every night is date night.
Okay, well, like, still, maybe she'd like to get out with the husband and one of those nights you split it, and like you take one half and she takes, the other half. So like she'll take the beginning and you can take the end. Hello, pleasure.
Wait, are you telling me to take turns on dates?
I'm telling you to be fair.
Oh, dude, I'm not sharing. What is wrong with you? You better move.
But look,
Okay.
I told you how to get the win-win out of that. She takes the beginning and you take the end.
Okay, next question.
Oh, that was funny. Okay. Truly, I'm trying to be your friend and be fair. Okay. I'm still on your side, though, but I'm just saying, if we're going to be fair, let's be fair. I'm teaching you how to be a friend. Okay. Let's see. Oh, how did you all work together to decide your major in college?
We didn't. We have, Dr. E, that's what we call her on the podcast, right? Dr. E just is the one who's always done school since kindergarten. So I didn't really care what we majored in. That was just her thing.
Yeah, but what if she couldn't go to class one day? Then who took over?
We just didn't go to class.
Are you serious?
But she always went to class. Like, that's the only thing that she does, is school and work.
Oh my gosh.
That was like forever. Like, we went to college for 15 years.
Yeah, I would imagine if you have a PhD.
She has 3 masters and a PhD and a postdoc.
Then she made a career out of school for a really long time.
I think we just stayed in school until she ran out.
I mean, and until keg parties stopped getting called. Look,
I think school was like for.
And you couldn't do the keg stand.
No, like.
See, and here John's telling me that you're a beer and poker kind of girl.
That, dude, he saw the men at the hotel drinking beer and playing poker. I did not join in the game. And yes, I did have alcohol in the past, it's true. But my therapist gave it to me. Not my therapist now. Oh my goodness. Not my therapist now.
The really bad one.
A previous therapist. And that's how I learned to drink, was from the therapist. And then we dated like a lot of alcoholics in a row. Well, I mean, not like a lot, but it kept happening like 3 times, 3 relationships with alcoholics. And it was like, finally, let's just not. And so we stopped drinking, and also Emma got baptized. But when we stopped drinking, then like all of our friends were not our friends anymore. It was weird. It was like they couldn't function without alcohol. And I had no idea that like everyone in my life was an alcoholic. I had no idea. But it wasn't just like it wasn't just like someone who wants a glass of wine with dinner or a night out with the girls or something. It was like they could not function even at work without alcohol. And so when we started functioning without alcohol, like our lives no longer crossed paths. I used to drink wine, and sometimes I drink other things, but we really, like, of all the mistakes that I ever made or all the messes I ever got myself into, the one thing that we didn't do a lot of was alcohol or drugs. And I think it was because like our brain was the only thing we had going for us, and we didn't want to mess it up. But also, all of those things like got introduced to us by people that were not safe. So like we were so isolated in growing up that we were never around anyone in high school or even college that drank alcohol or used any drugs or even like marijuana or something. We just weren't around it. We were never exposed to it. But then the first person who offered us alcohol was a therapist. And the first person...
That's such a breach of boundaries.
that ever offered us like marijuana was a different therapist who then also offered us like shrooms at the same time. And so like because that was already an unsafe situation, we're just like we're not going there. We're just not going to do it. And so I did. I even now I miss like wine or drinks or something, and sometimes I wouldn't mind in the past like having a drink or whatever, like a beer or a shot of tequila or something for fun, but I never got just trashed because for me, and I'm not speaking for other survivors, but for me, anything that added to me losing control contributed to dissociating more than what I could control or manage did not feel safe to me because I didn't want to like not know what was happening. So we modulated that. Other people almost have to use substances to regulate themselves until they learn how or whatever are able to do that. But for me, it was not a strong point. But I also had issues with like substances that were given to us when we were young. That's a whole different story. And so I think that's another reason we avoided it, because it was really a trigger. It wasn't something that was recreational.
That makes sense.
This got way deeper than I intended.
Sorry, I asked a very basic question. Okay. So, how long have you been in the system?
Ooh, pass.
God, that's not complicated, but okay. All right. Like, it's very basic. 10, 20 years, 30. You know, rock on. Do you age? Like, next year, will you be 18?
Do I age?
Uh-huh.
Well, I think there's more gray hairs than there were yesterday.
No, that's the body. It's a totally separate thing, but I like how you dance around the question. No, it's like, okay, so like, are you going to have a birthday? And if so, will you be 18? Or, like, are you going to stay 17?
I don't know how all that works.
Okay, so like, let me break it down to you the best I understand it, okay?
Okay.
Here it comes. All right, so there are some systems who have altars that are age sliders, right? And age sliding is like, at one point they can be 5 years old, but at another point they can be 9 years old, right?
Okay.
And then you have altars in a system who age with the, like, every year, right? So, like, let's say they started off at 12 and then they're going 13, 14, right? They may not necessarily be the same age as the body, but they're aging every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a thing called for altars who don't age at all. So they're always going to be 17 unless they decide that they want to age, which apparently that can happen.
I don't know that we have any age sliders. I know we have some littles. I know we have one little who's just waiting for a birthday. I know that Dr. E came when we started kindergarten and aged with the body, except is 2 years behind because of 2 years she lost when we were first diagnosed. But otherwise, she's caught up. And so everyone else, I don't know. I'll pass to the next question.
Okay, if you could change anything about the inner world, what would it be?
If I could change anything about the inner world, I guess I would change. There's some places that are creepy and scary, and I wish I could just like get rid of those places or turn them off, but we can't because there's people in there, like kids.
My homegirl's room must really suck because she doesn't want to talk about it. Like, if we could leave a ladder and some sledgehammers, like, can't we, like, put a nice fluffy bed with, like, pretty linens and a light and a desk?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I think so. Because I'm like, I don't want my friend to suffer.
I think whether that counts as internal world or not, like, I think for me at least, that's the hardest part about DID is that there's so much that's just gross and awful, and then also trying to not get fired from therapy.
You're not going to get fired from therapy. Would you quit saying
Okay, next.
Okay, what about the external world would you change?
The external world?
The outside world.
I would take the house that we have moved into, which is amazing for our outside family. I would take it out of the city and move it to the country, but then also still be across the street from the therapist like we are right now at the hotel. I don't mean across the street from where the therapist lives. I mean from her office, because the 4-hour drive is like brutal.
Right. That part I understood. That resonated with me because I'm your friend and I understand the brutality of the 4-hour drive.
But I didn't want to sound like a creeper. I don't want to bother the therapist in real life.
You just don't want to have to sit in the car for 4 hours fighting with people all the way to the therapist.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. But it's worth it. And so it's still the right thing. But it is really hard.
It is still the right thing to go see the therapist. I wholeheartedly support you on that one, sister.
Well, thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. Okay, your system has traveled around the world. Where was a neat place you have lived?
We have lived in Africa. We have lived in Europe. We have lived in Australia and New Zealand. We lived in France and Germany. Actually, I got an email about that because I guess in one episode, I don't even know which one, I guess in one episode I talked about France and the cheese.
No, it was the cheese. Yeah, you talked about the cheese
and
I liked that.
I got called out because one of the listeners knows that we live there, and where we lived was actually in Belfort, which is like right by Germany, like in the Alps, like that part of France. And so they're like, and you also lived in Germany, and you also lived in Switzerland, and you also lived here. So they got upset that I gave a shout out to France, but not to Germany. So my apologies. Hello, Germany. We love you. I can sing like Kap, Schulten, Knie und See, Knie und See.
You're like a really nice little German message, and I'm like, Guten Tag. I'm crying. Okay. That was funny. This is good for our souls. It is. Laughter's the best medicine.
Oh, okay. Good, because I'm not on any other medicine right now. We take estrogen since the whole cancer thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go see if I need to get me some of that too, because the hot flashes have started, and that's just not enjoyable.
Oh dear.
Do what?
That's unpleasant. They're about to take us off because you can't be on it too long without it causing more problems if you have a lot of cancer stuff anyway. So now they're like, da, 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 da. So that's actually top secret, which I've now said on the podcast. But every day we have therapy, we also see the oncologist.
So then you also might want to edit that out.
Okay.
Well, no, okay, let's rephrase that. You and I will speak of that because we're friends and we can speak like that and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, but friendship.
Podcast forum, whatever. I am such a good friend to you. Okay, and like you can edit this part out too, but I had this question earlier today. Since your birthday is coming up, do y'all have like a P.O. box?
No.
Yes.
Can you message it to me so I can send you like a happy birthday card?
I will message it.
So, what languages can you speak?
I can barely speak English.
Well, duh.
No, our native native language. You mean like the body out of anybody altogether?
I guess. Like, what can you speak? You just do English, right? Obviously, you do German.
Well, I just do English. Our native language actually is sign language, American Sign Language, and German, French, Hebrew. We lived in Israel. Did I tell you that?
No.
Some Korean.
You're like the Taylor Dane song. Been around the world, I can't find my baby.
Where's the door? Oh.
So you went to Israel too?
Yes. And like we went up to Syria and Lebanon and the West Bank and Gaza and all of that. We've been all those places.
What about Russia?
Yes, I learned Russian in 4th grade.
Oh my God, Sasha, y'all are like well-traveled and well-spoken.
We were in a military family.
Oh, so you were okay. All right, so you were a military brat.
I am not a brat. You're a brat.
But that's what they call them, military brats.
Oh, okay.
God, she's so quick to like get me. I'm gonna get vaccinated. Okay. Oh God. Okay, I think you've already been asked that one.
Oh, je ne sais pas.
Yeah, Polyboo Frog say, I don't think so. You had to say you loved that. Hey, have you been to Spain?
Yes.
I love Spain.
That does not surprise me.
Oh, what altars can you speak with or communicate with in the inner world?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can read the notebook, and I read almost everything in the notebook. And now we have an app on our phone that we can talk to each other. So now I'm hearing from more people that way. But as far as
did you include my friend Taylor in that?
No.
That's so snarky. Okay, go ahead.
And wait, what was the question?
What altars can you speak with or communicate with in the inner world?
Oh, okay. And on the inside, I could talk to anybody I wanted, I think.
But like, you don't go over to their little spots in the attic, do you?
Well,
or is it just one big room?
I don't have to talk to them, but I could if I wanted. Like,
but is it like
I know
one big room? Is it like one big room in the attic that everybody's in, or is it like divvied off into like separate rooms in the attic?
That's kind of hard to explain, but not everybody's in the attic, and I could talk to other people if I wanted. I just don't want to talk to them. Why would I want to talk to them?
Is there part of the team?
Whose side are you on?
I'm on yours, and it would behoove you to work a little with the team for your benefit.
Some awfully big words, my friend.
How did she like our podcast?
I don't know if she even listened to it. I really don't know.
Oh, okay. She was still talking to me, so maybe she didn't.
That would require talking to her, which I try not to do.
Oh, golly dang. Okay. All right, Emma, who would you say is the funniest in the system?
Me, of course. No, probably John Mark. Totally John Mark.
Yeah, I'd have to say he's pretty funny. And every time he said alligators, I thought I was going to wreck. Okay.
He cracks me up.
Oh, he is so funny, and I love him so much that I wanted to, like, give him a donut. No. If I'd have known exactly what hotel y'all were at.
That's why we can't eat donuts, because cancer eats sugar.
Oh, that's true. Okay. I didn't think about that. Okay. You know, I should have thought about that and known that, but it didn't even occur to me. I was just like, glazed donut, big as your head. Happy, happy. Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't tell you yet. I didn't tell you. You didn't know. But now you know.
Yeah, still feel bad. Could we get him a small one? Just a little one?
No.
Like a birthday prize. Like, here's your glazed donut, happy birthday.
No.
Okay, fine. All right, who would you say is the most serious?
So maybe Dr. E, or the one who's the mother, is like needs to get her head out of the sand. I don't know.
Wait, well, that's not fair, but I did get to talk to her this week.
What? She does not talk to people.
Well, she talked to me.
That's why she's depressed. Oh, you're gonna start a mom's club now?
No, but I'm just saying, like, I enjoyed my conversation with her. I don't think she's as depressing as you think she is. I just think you might need to give her a chance to, like, show you who she is and then believe her.
You are so flippin' therapeutic.
I'm just saying, haven't you ever heard the term, when people show you who they are, believe them?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, write it down, okay? So, like, for example, when somebody shows you that they are an asshat, believe them. They are. When they show you they're a liar, believe them. They are. It applies to so many things. It oh, yeah, okay, it resonates. Okay, who would you say handles rude people? Who in the system handles rude people?
Probably me or Cassie.
Yeah, I'd say you. Who would you say is the most creative?
Katie.
I would agree. Who would you say is the most like you?
Cassie.
Now, is she a little?
No.
How old is she?
Grown up.
But you and her are good friends though, right?
Pass.
Okay. Who would you say is the most caring?
Ooh, definitely not me.
That's not true.
The most caring, probably John or Molly.
Those are probably the people that take pity on me and send me a "How are you doing" message.
Julie is the most caring.
I'm not a part of the system, although I have really tried to think about how I could become Ant-Man to get in there and do some, like, serious business.
Maybe the husband is the most caring.
No, they have to be on the inside. You're very caring.
Oh, I am not.
You are. And I would imagine, like, I think Dr. E is very caring.
Definitely not.
Why would you say definitely not?
She doesn't care about anything.
No, I think you're confusing not caring about anything with having to keep a specified distance in order to maintain her ability to do her job, which pays your allowance.
I feel like you just said something really important that I did not understand at all.
Sorry, you'll hear it on rewind. You'll hear it on rewind. It's all good. Okay, here's one. Okay, do any of the alters need glasses or hearing aids?
That is a good question. The body is totally deaf, and so if we don't have our cochlear implants on, we can hear nothing, because we have no auditory nerve. And so the cochlear implants bypass that, so everybody needs it. Not everybody knows how to use them, and not everybody knows how to change the batteries. But we have to have them to be able to hear anything at all. We have glasses that are needed more some than others, and some of us don't wear it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that was intriguing too. So you were born without your auditory nerve?
No, they got cut in surgery for the cochlear implants.
Oh, okay. Oh, those things are fascinating, by the way. They've done so many good things for people.
Yeah, Ours now are like so small. We have the Kanzo ones. So they don't even sit on our ears. For the first time in our life, like there's nothing on our ears. Well, our glasses. But I don't have glasses. But they don't, they're just like a flat egg on the back of the head. I don't know how
the disc things, right? On the back, like they have a magnetic attachment kind of thing.
Yeah, they stick by magnet.
Them in your hair, right?
Yeah.
See, that's cool. Y'all just are awesome. Okay, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you want to go and why? And obviously, it's not Africa.
Therapy.
Really?
Not to talk, though.
I was getting all excited there for a hot minute. I was like...
Not to talk, just to be there. It's so safe there. I don't know why it's so hard. I would go somewhere where I could climb like hills or mountains or walk in the woods. Like not creepy woods. Not creepy woods, but like, or kayaking. I love to kayak. There would be water involved, whether it was a river or a lake or something.
My friend Emma, and she said she was hiding. Was that her or you?
That was Emma. Emma
Okay,
always hiding. She's a walking panic attack. That big old wimp.
That's not good. So anyway, I was worried about her hiding because she didn't feel safe. And so I said, are you hiding in the closet? Or are you like just hiding in the room? Like what's the deal? Or are you like hiding in the bathtub? Like where's your hide and seek spot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you were like all eyes on that little message. And then she was like, okay, I'm out of my hiding spot. Because I was like, you just need to remember that you're like in a safe place. Your room is safe. You have a lock. Ain't nobody coming. Like, let's not close it for no reason.
I don't know why it's hard. Like, I think maybe we're crazy. Like,
No, it's not that you're
have
crazy.
gone off the deep end.
No, it's not that you're crazy, okay? The problem is, in my opinion, on the outside looking in, right? The problem is this. You all have worked so magnificently to stay hidden, guarded, built walls the size of, like, China, the Great Wall of China, and gone to such exponential effort to not have any kind of attention on yourselves from others or have yourself involved with others, right? You've been very singularly invested. But not because you didn't want to be, but because you had to be. Because people kept taking advantage of you in a way that was not kind or considerate or understanding. And they did that because, like, trauma survivors in general, including myself, can be vulnerable people and can be easily manipulated into situations of unsafe, whatever, circumstances. Did that make a sense? Or did you go to sleep?
I did not go to sleep. That was just a little too real for me.
Okay, play it on rewind later and you can take it in. Okay. See, she gave me such a hard time on the last time because she said, you drop truth bombs. Here I am, living my best life, dropping my truth bombs, and, you know, it's called authentic. Okay. So, moving on, what is your goal as a system as far as do you want to integrate or do you want to work to become a more cohesive unit?
No and no. I'll pass
in a more fuller capacity, right?
I pass.
I'm not. You don't need to pass. Just listen.
No.
I'm telling you from the friend perspective.
No, I pass.
Would you like to have your own body in the external world if you had the option?
Yes. If it did not have cancer.
Well, we can't control those things, but maybe if you had your own, it would be a different genetic cesspool and you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Well, what I can control is not being the one who does chemo.
That's awful. Okay. You know what? Yeah. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Okay. My friend is a hero. Okay. Does your system have any fragments?
No.
But you are polyfragmented.
Oh, wait. I thought you said, do we have any friends?
No. I know that answer. It's one, and her name's Julie. And let me tell you, folks, okay, it's real hard to make that happen. So good luck to you.
Wait, I got a question by email. Hold on.
Oh, did you? Oh, God, I'm crying. Let me get a tissue.
I got two by email from the website. Charlotte asked if different ones of us have different religious beliefs, and if there are religious differences, how does this play out? Oh, she was referencing, I guess we said something, I don't know if it was on our interview with you.
We talked about how when you took your earrings out, that made you holy.
Oh, yeah, your joke, right? So someone wrote, do we have different religious beliefs? And if there are differences, how does this play out with the husband and your community? And then she said,
good question.
I'm wondering if maybe someone like Sasha wouldn't want to comply with all the teachings.
Oh,
and if
that's not true.
And if that might cause some difficulties. Do you all just make an agreement to keep certain moral religious codes even if religion is not your thing? Oh, no. I'm sorry. It was from Hannah, not Charlotte.
Oh, hi, Hannah, from Charlotte. Is she from Charlotte?
I don't know. I got confused on that. But her name is Hannah. I will answer this, and it's totally just from our experience, not trying to get all preachy or churchy.
Right. We don't want people mailing Bibles. We don't want people sending us scripture. We don't want to know whether or not we're going to hell. Go ahead.
Don't go to hell, Julie.
I'm riding the train, okay? I'm driving the train.
Okay, so what I can say...
You're in the caboose. Right behind me. We're going together. Okay, go ahead.
What I can say is that... I have to put a trigger warning on this episode. What I can say is that for us, religion is a really tricky issue because our father, like the body's father, not my father, but you know what I mean, the body's
right.
father was actually a music minister in a church, and it was a very evangelical kind of church.
Like Pentecostal?
No.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
No, but we grew up in that kind of church, but also there was other stuff but he was obviously one of the abusers, and there were other issues that made that more complicated. So it's hard for some of us anyway to deal with church-related things.
Right.
When we were in foster care and adopted the first time, that family was Catholic, and so we were put through catechism classes and learned about Catholic things at that point. When we went to school, we were at little Christian schools for college, and we during that time went to synagogue and then also moved to Israel. and stayed there for a while. And so there is one or two that have a lot of Jewish understanding from those experiences. And then Molly, obviously, after Dr. Okay, I don't even know how to tell this. It all sounds so crazy when you try to put it together
Molly
with one
used to
body.
be a chaplain in the hospital.
Well, yeah, so Dr. E already finished her doctorate, was already licensed as a therapist, already finished postdoc, and Molly went back to school to get a third master's. And she has a
In
master's.
theology, right?
She has a master's in Hebrew and Jewish studies. And so Molly, like, is really good at working with a lot of people from different faiths and whatever chaplains do. Not in, like, I have to be really careful how I say this because I'm sensitive to it, and I know people who listen are sensitive to it. Molly is not like a preacher in your face kind of person. She and all of us as a system have a very distinct, like, what our faith is, and our faith tradition is very, very different than who God is different than crazy people who do stuff in the name of God. Does that make sense? Or
Absolutely makes sense.
Legit faith, whatever that looks like to you.
Legit Christianity, like what you would consider legit Christianity, not somebody who goes to church on Sunday and then acts another way Monday through Friday.
Right, and any faith, even besides Christianity, any faith that is like an authentic relationship with learning what love means and what compassion means and what receptiveness and openness and community and all of these things mean, whatever that looks like for you is very different than organized religion or abuse through organizations or groups or things like that. And so for us, it is something we've had to work really hard at and done it very intentionally and consciously because of some of our background. So as far as complying with things, that is a whole different layer because when we were diagnosed initially, like when we were 17, we were inpatient for a while, and at that place we came up with some very general rules with those of us in the system who could cooperate with that and participate with that had to do with safety. It had to do with not like harming the body at all, not returning to the abusers in some ways, and it also had to do with things like not participating in drugs or alcohol because of the things that it exposed us to. And so like this fall will actually be like our 10-year sobriety date. And then
awesome, like kudos to you. Awesome.
Thank you. And then it also included other things that we're only just now starting to work on. So I know that's like a lot and a lot of nerdy answers and could maybe be its own episode, but that would be my initial answer to Hannah, and we can talk about it more later.
Right. Well, and also too, we should also say that for a lot of trauma survivors, a lot of them have it related to things that had to do with religion or their perception of religion.
Yes.
And so we want to be cognizant to not trigger them unintentionally so that like that causes them more trauma than it's worth answering.
Right.
So that's just how we practice good boundaries.
Thank you so much.
You know who I'm surprised I haven't heard from? Sending me a message to say, I want to do a podcast with you.
Who, what?
You know who I am surprised has not messaged me to do a podcast?
Who?
Our friend John.
I mean, here's what's crazy about that. He's actually super shy.
I know, but he super loves me. I'm surprised he hasn't, like, said something. Like, if it was in reverse and it was him, he would have been like, you know, we would have done it and whatever, but you would have sent me a message telling me you were jealous.
That's funny. He has talked, I don't know why, but something between him and the therapist, like they are bonded. He has talked to her more than he has ever talked to anyone at all about anything. And even at home, he will sometimes watch a movie with the husband or do like play games with the husband, but not very like overtly. Like he tries to sneak in and sneak out, like he won't be noticed. But I
He's
don't
kind of
know.
like old goose in a china cabinet. He's not going to be unnoticed.
Oh, the other email from the website was Connie, and
Hi, Connie.
she heard our podcast from the interview with Susan P. Spanic and was just saying hi. There was not a question. Sorry. Hi, Connie.
Oh, hi, Connie. Hey, and we got a nice message from our friend Megan. Right, Megan?
Megan. Do you know what Megan did? She sat
so
outside
mad
the
at myself.
hotel after the conference and waited with me while I had to get on the shuttle back to the airport. How nice was that?
That was super nice, and I appreciate her doing that for my BFF.
Yay! Shout out to Megan.
Shout out to Megan! Whoop whoop! Okay, so, let's see, did we answer the question? Oh, yes, we didn't answer this question. Does the system have any fragments?
I don't know. Do we have any friends?
Fragments.
Fragments. What does that mean?
Fragments, you know, like two-dimensional alters that have like one job only.
I don't even know what that means.
Wait.
So I'll pass. Someone else maybe knows.
Well, but like Taylor is polyfragmented. Does that count?
What does that mean? I'm poly what? I don't think I'm allowed to be poly anymore.
No, well, Taylor's got multiple Taylors in her, remember?
Yeah?
Isn't that polyfragmented?
I don't know. I've never heard that word.
Well, write it down, sister. I think it is. So, yes.
Write it down, sister. I don't know.
Look, put it on the list as number 869. Okay, because I believe the last count was 868.
If I keep bumping all the hard questions to the end of the list, it's going to be a really hard podcast someday.
Actually, I think the longer you all keep doing therapy, the easier the podcast will get.
What?
Yes.
Not if we get fired.
You're not going to get fired. Do I need to get you like a little handmade tattoo that says, "We're not getting fired"? And you can like put it on your arm right next to NTIS.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to get those made. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, you send me what I asked you for, and I'm going to make that happen. I also, listen, when you did the podcast and you were like, "Hello, pleasure." Okay, let me tell you, I spit my drink out in the car. I was like, oh my God, she didn't. And then you were like, you took it a step further because you were like, I love pleasure. Love. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting her a shirt and it's going to say, "Hello, pleasure." And pleasure is going to be in glitter. And don't anybody steal my idea. If she gets that gift from anybody from me, I'm going to let you know right now you're plagiarizing.
That's going to be like the most inside joke of a podcast there ever was.
I know, but that's awesome. Oh, and then the one you said today, what was it? Because I was dying. to you. Oh, I know. Hi, this is Sasha. Can we talk now? I was like, this is the best ever.
Oh my goodness, we have to stop because my face hurts. Thank you for joining us with System Speak, a podcast about dissociative identity disorder. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes, or follow along on our website, www.systemspeak.org. Thanks for listening.
I hit play on the next one, nothing happens. The site seems... I don't know if it's the site or something with our internet. It seems a little finicky sometimes. Here we go.
Hi, this is Sasha, and I have so many things to tell you. We had therapy today, and it was crazy awesome, except also terrifying. And I don't get it. Like, how that is or why that is making me crazy. Like, it's like I can almost grasp it and almost hold on to it, and then it just slips away. And I can't hang on to it. Because my therapist is awesome, and my therapist is legit, and she's super cool. She doesn't let me get away with crap, which I guess is helpful, but also annoying, except good for me, and as she said today, uncomfortable. So yes, therapy is super uncomfortable, but it was really good, you guys. It was really good. I even brought the husband and the children with me this time so that we could talk about other things. Also, things have been getting really intense with what's happening inside, and so I really needed just a stall week. Like, I couldn't cancel therapy because I don't want to skip therapy. And also, I know that all of us really need to see her, like physically see her, that she's still there and still real. But I needed to come up for air. So the husband was like, wait, are you using me as a shield? And I was like, yes, I am. So you need to come with me to therapy. But here's what was good. I guess there's someone, I don't know who, I need to figure that out. But there's someone who talks to him about therapy and what she's learning from therapy. And like they have a going list of things to talk about next time he goes with us. Because he goes with us every once in a while. And so it was just kind of a good time for him to go anyway, like legit. Because they had a pretty long list of things to talk about. So that worked out super well in my favor because it was a good time to bring him anyway, but also like let things settle down inside a bit before we do more therapy because things are changing so fast. Like the walls are coming down, guys, and it's terrifying me. Like it's so scary. And also there are things like I'm learning that I don't know that I want to know. And it's just so intense, but I know that it's good. So I don't know. It's just hard. Therapy is so hard. I don't mean she is bad. She's good. We finally have a good therapist. I get that, but it's just really hard. So I was glad he was there today, except also here's the thing. For the first time, I totally got called out. I got busted that I was not who he thought I was, or like they figured out that it was me, Sasha. And so I officially met the therapist and told her it was me for the first time and talked about some things for the first time. I wasn't the only one there, but I did get most of a session, and also part of it was like so fuzzy and blurry because there were so many people listening. Like this whole stuff of all the changes inside and how to listen to the therapist when she's talking and changing the Christmas lights and the color of pay attention because the therapist is here. Like, guys, it's working. It's working because there were like 800 people. Not really. Oh my goodness, could you imagine? So not really. But there were so many people listening, it was hard to even see straight. It was like the whole room almost went dark, except I could still hear her and the husband. But there was, like, I wasn't alone. It was so creepy and weird. Like there were 100 of us in that room. Again, not really 100, but you know what I mean? So anyway, so the husband came. He brought this list, which I was not thrilled about what was on the list, but I guess it was good, and it ended up in some really good discussion. But then after therapy, we took the kids to the park, and while the children were playing, the husband and I talked about therapy a little bit, except I still was not completely present, so it was really hard to stay focused and, like, together, but I tried. So anyway, here's what I want to share from parts, not all of it, obviously, but parts of what I wanted to share from the conversation with the husband. But here are the highlights. Some of what we talked about with the therapist, some of what was on the list, and one of the big things for me was I also talked with the therapist directly. Not really, the husband brought it up. It was on his list. But I pretended I did. Like, I guess that was helpful because it was too scary for me to do by myself. But we talked about the podcast, and she's only listened to the one episode that Dr. E sent directly because she doesn't go anywhere uninvited. And so she was invited to listen to that episode, but she did not listen to all the others, even though she has the link. How crazy is that? Like, safe, off the chart, respectful. So she totally earned my respect with that, except also it's just okay if she listens to it. So I told her she could, but she also said she wasn't firing me because of the podcast or because of anything else. So it was a huge moment for me, really intense, really hard to believe, and a lot to soak in and process, which is why we talked about it again at the park after therapy, and why I want to talk about it on the podcast, because I need to listen to this over and over and over until I can get it sunk into my head that this is really okay, that maybe she's sticking around and the husband is staying too. So it's a lot to learn. It's hard to remember, but I think everything's okay, you guys. Like, it's the most okay and peaceful and safe and calm and good and peaceful. Like, I don't even have the right words for it. It's the best things have felt since before everything happened around the holidays and with family services and all those other things that happened. Like, maybe the best we have felt since starting the podcast. So it was good for me, and I want to share what the husband and I talked about, or parts of it, so that we can listen to it again, so that others, especially Emma, can hear what's going on and what we talked about. And maybe it will sink through that the husband and the therapist are both really here to stay. And maybe we are finally safe. And maybe everything really is okay. Maybe. Here's a conversation with the husband. Okay, say hi.
Hello.
We are back with the husband because we just had therapy today and I got outed. I mean, I talked to the therapist and we talked about the podcast, and she doesn't hate us and she's not firing us. Right?
Yep.
Is that true?
That is absolutely true.
There's a lot.
We talked about a lot.
What did she say about confronting truths or something like that?
I don't remember.
Congruence.
Oh yeah, congruence. Sometimes your emotions are linked back to memory time, and they'll tell you that you're feeling scared, but that feeling is not congruent with the evidence you have around you.
So, looking for the evidence of what is true.
Yes.
So I can feel like she's gonna fire me, or like she doesn't want to talk to us, or that you don't really love us. But that's not what's true.
Yeah, you don't have any evidence for that. All you have is evidence that we both care about you a lot.
Because the memory time is that no one stayed
Yes.
and everybody was dangerous.
Yes.
Or it feels like that. I know everybody's probably a big word, but it feels like there was so little that was safe, so nothing else could be safe either. But that's memory time feelings
Yes.
invading the present. Is that a good word? Like invading?
Yeah.
But in now time, it is safe, and the evidence shows that it's safe. So someone trying to be my friend now, that is a safe person. It's okay that they're a safe person. Oh, that's a big piece. I can't even process just that piece. Go ahead.
She also said that your feelings are like ocean waves lapping at your feet on the beach. That it feels like a thing that's just happening now, but it started miles and miles out at sea.
Wait, I forgot what I was supposed
Each
to
of
do
those
here.
things works together to create that emotional response.
So like everything that's happened.
Everything that's happened is involved in giving you those emotional responses.
So it feels like it's the present, but it's not really the present. And here was something that was cool that actually helped me a lot. She said that's true for everybody, not just DID.
Absolutely.
And so, like, even she has times where she needs reassurance, or you have times where you need reassurance. And it's okay to check in and to just say that. To get, is it congruence? Is that the word she said? To remember, like, now time is safe, or even that you are safe, or even that, I guess, really, ultimately, that I am safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
can give you
not
an
remember
example of what
what
you
to
were just
do.
talking about. There was a time not
Oh,
long
wait.
ago where I was doing something work-related at home,
Yeah.
and I suddenly was like on the verge of a panic attack and crying. Like it touched on to some past experiences that were really traumatic for me. Even though the current situation was not a threat in any way, but it tied me back to those other moments.
And you don't have DID.
And I don't have DID.
Wait, so part of it's just about being human.
Oh, yes.
And so it just basically turns out it's okay to just be human.
Yeah. Emotions are hard for all humans.
She said she's not leaving,
It's true.
and that she's still going to keep working with us.
Yes.
Even though she knows about the podcast. She listened to one podcast.
Yes.
Which podcast?
I think the one from the conference. And she said that's the only one she listened to because you hadn't given her permission to listen to any more.
Because she doesn't go anywhere uninvited.
Yes. It's like a vampire that way.
Oh my goodness, you just said that. She is not, our therapist is not a vampire. Oh my goodness, you just said that. She does not go anywhere uninvited, which makes her awesome.
Yes, she is awesome.
Different than a vampire.
Vampires are
That's a
awesome.
vampire you're talking about.
Oh my goodness, what is with you and vampires? Where did this come from?
Sorry, my instructions are never to tell jokes. I will stop that.
I feel like a lot happened in therapy. How do you guys do that? You had a list.
Yes, for the past couple months, whenever a challenging topic came up or a question came up, we would say, put that on the list so that we could talk about it together with your therapist. And so we had a lot of things to talk about and a lot of things that today you said, no, don't talk about it, don't talk about it.
Let's just not talk in therapy at all.
You just want to do interpretive dance?
No.
So there were some things that we did not talk about today, but I did read the whole list.
Because we have to go back to them.
Yeah.
Because the therapist can help.
Yes.
Why is it hard? Like, if it's, I know, like, if you just talk to me just about her, like, I know she's super cool. I know she's super smart. I know that she's helping. Like, not just, oh, she's helpful in general. And not just like, oh, she's gentle or safe or what. I know she's helpful. Like, actively, it is helping. Like, I get that it's good. But I get there and I, like, freeze. Like, why is it so hard just to even get started?
I think it is because DID, at its heart, is a system of self-protection. And when you go to the therapist, you are making yourself vulnerable, and that feels dangerous.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But it's very unpleasant.
Yeah. But that's another thing where it's the evidence that you have is that you always come away from those meetings feeling much, much better.
Oh.
But the feelings that you have before you go in are like those ripples of all of the other times you've had people in your life or even therapists who have been unhealthy or have betrayed you or have hurt you. So it's not just now time that you're feeling. You're feeling the ripples from all of those other things.
That thing just happened where I know you were talking and you were saying words.
And you just heard gobbledygook.
But it did not make any sense to me. I don't know what that is. That's thing though. But now that we've talked about it in therapy, I'm noticing more when it happens. And that's a time where it just happened. But like I was aware you were talking, but none of it went to my brain.
The walls of your labyrinth were shifting.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm really not.
I know.
I don't mean to not listen to you.
I'm telling you, DID is a system of self-protection. And if I'm saying something you feel like you are not safe hearing, then your system protects you.
That's great. Oh, that was the other thing she talked about, was that adults have trauma too.
Maybe I shouldn't have done that.
That it's not just the little brats that had trauma.
She also said not to call them brats.
Blast.
She also talked about how all of you have different needs, and that a podcast may be exactly what one of you needs, but another one has no use for that. But that doesn't mean that the podcast itself is useless. It means that each of you needs to be able to find fulfillment in the way that suits them.
So, like, some of us use the notebook. Some of us use the podcast. Some of us use both. Some of us don't use any of that.
Yeah.
Oh, she said the texting's okay too, and not to stop them, not to keep them from texting her.
Right.
I think part of it is, like, I'm afraid of using her up. Like, if I go so far as to say she is legit, and so far as to say they are legit, and to, like, truly try to, like, step out in the Indiana Jones leap of faith, like, take that step into the cavern and hope there's a road underneath me, then, like, the next thing means I have to walk across it. I think that's part of why it's hard, is like, that means that everything else is real too.
And here's something about the texting that stood out to me. She was telling you that you can trust her. She's never going to change her mind. She's with you always. And then you immediately said, I wish they would stop texting you. And I think it was because you still think that she will only like you as long as you don't mess it up.
Oh, yes. Or if they do stuff like texting her, then they'll use her up. And then she'll change her mind.
Yes.
I mean, I know she's got good boundaries. And really, mostly, we have good boundaries. Mostly, I don't know. But, and I think, like, we're careful of it because we know, like, what it's like for Dr. E. When people abuse that privilege, so to speak. Which, but which is, like, part of trust building is respecting the boundaries of it, and she has good boundaries about it, and we get that because of, like, our own experience of being on the other side of it. But I think my fear in that is exactly what you just said, like, that we will use her up, or that we will say something that finally is the wrong thing, and then she changes her mind.
Your therapist seems healthy enough and to have good enough boundaries that if you were to get to the point where she needed you to stop sending messages, I believe she would tell you.
She said, yeah.
Yes.
Also, she said one time before that it doesn't seem to be like when we text her, it's not a conversation. Like, it's not, when we text her, it's not like for a half hour. It's like a text.
Yeah.
And she responds when she can, not necessarily right away, but she does respond. But usually when she responds, it's either with such reassurance that we don't need to text more until we see her again, or it's such a truth bomb that we don't want to text more until we can see her and talk to her about it anyway, or it just takes that long time to process.
You know what it makes me think of? When we've had toddlers and they get to that stage where they wander off to do something and then they have to come back just to make eye contact, and then they wander off again, and then they come back just to like touch you and make sure you're still there, and they wander off and then they come back. It's like learning attachment and permanency somehow.
What? Are you saying I'm a toddler in therapy?
Yes I am.
I think we have a toddler, but I can't send a toddler to therapy.
Why not?
That would be so embarrassing.
All of us have an inner toddler.
What? You don't have an inner toddler.
I do.
What?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Mine just all sloshes around together. I don't have it articulated with little walls, but
You don't lose time.
I don't lose time. It's true.
When we leave therapy, one of the things that happens, besides needing to sleep for like 20 hours, is it's like not like dominoes, or maybe like the ocean wave, she said, or something, where like the same thing has to keep getting replayed and it soaks in further and further and further and further.
Oh, well, right then I was thinking how we also watch What Dreams May Come, but that's not a very helpful observation.
Oh, that's funny. No, it's something we did not talk about it with the therapist.
I should have done that. It's okay.
I think it just wasn't on the list, so we didn't think of it. But we can definitely talk about it on the podcast because it's follow-up from Group. In Group, we got the assignment to watch the movie. What's it called?
What Dreams May Come.
What Dreams May Come, which is actually a pretty bleak movie.
It's not a very enjoyable movie.
But the thing that's cool is about the power you have to create your own perception in your own internal world, which is why it was assigned in Group. So for the purpose that we had it, it was a really important movie to watch. But for the purpose of enjoying date night, it was a fail.
It was not a very cheery date night.
It was super depressing. It was super sad. But it was good about creating our internal world. Oh, we did talk about that though. Something about safety. Something about, I know we're talking about the bus stop and that it's not time to move people around and we're just working on getting them to the attic and getting safety. But she said something about it was important to know about the other house and what happened there. Something. Oh, what did she say? All I heard was the word safety.
She said she was glad that one of you had raised an objection about it, because that way she knows that it is maybe not the safe option and that they'll need another plan, but
So like communicating with her
yeah.
is important, and communicating with you is important, the same as communicating inside is important. The magic list. Why was that so scary? When we got to help decide what went on the list, it was still scary when you brought it up.
I think because when we wrote it down, you were not in the therapy context, which can sometimes be a trigger for you to feel vulnerable and unsafe.
But you were there with us. And I like her.
Oh, yes.
Like, it's not that I don't like her.
No, that's not it at all, of course.
But we're okay. I'm asking for reassurance.
Yes, we're okay. I still love you, and all evidence that I am giving you supports that statement.
Even though we're all these months or year into DID and dealing with it.
Yeah.
And trauma. There's trauma everywhere.
Yes, there is.
That was the other thing we talked about was medical trauma because of the kids, or even trauma just because of having kids. Why are kids traumatic?
Well, and one of you was saying that one of the others of you didn't have any trauma at all. All she's done is raise foster kids and adopt these other kids and take one child to a hospital for 3 months and like listed all of these traumatic things.
It sounds kind of traumatic when you say it like that.
Yeah.
Because it was hard to live through?
Yeah, I think pretty sure that's what trauma is.
I thought
that's
it
hard
was
to live
just...
through.
What?
Something that's hard to live through, that sticks with you as kind of a lingering moment of the present, even after it's just memory time.
Oh, see, I thought trauma was something someone did to you. And I know we can't blame the kids for being traumatized by fostering or blame the baby for being born sick and trying to die all the time.
I think the word gets a little muddied because I think trauma really means your experience of those things that happen to you, and sometimes use it also to refer to like inflicting trauma.
Right here.
But
Oh, so like when there's abuse or an abuser directly, that is trauma that they're inflicting.
yes,
But the experience of what's happening is traumatic.
Yeah, that is the trauma. Is the thing they are holding on to in themselves.
So fostering can count as traumatic.
Yes, absolutely.
It was so hard.
Yeah. It's also traumatic for the children, being ripped away from their parents and
Right.
living with us.
And the baby being sick has been traumatic too.
Yes.
So like life flights.
Mm-hmm.
I think a trigger was being stuck in the hospital room when we were in the PICU for like 3 months.
Yeah.
And just being stuck there and 1,000 miles from home without
Yes.
you. And we didn't know it was going to be so long, so we didn't know when we were going to get home. Like when I describe it like that, then I'm like, oh yeah, that's a lot of triggers.
Yeah.
That feel very parallel to some childhood experiences. But even in and of itself was hard.
Yes.
And then things like having to resuscitate her or calling in ambulances and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that counts as trauma.
Absolutely.
Do you have trauma
Yes.
from being married to us?
No.
Oh. From the children?
Not exactly. There have been experiences of during the time of parenting that have been kind of traumatic.
Diapers.
No, those were not traumatic. But like there was a time where we were watching a video you had made of the youngest and her early days and her medical situation, and it was really, really hard to watch in a way that made me realize that I was still kind of reliving those moments. And that's kind of my understanding of how to recognize a trauma moment. It's one of those past time things that still feels present.
Do we need to go or arrange sometime? I know not right now, like we just left therapy, but sometime when it's time for you to check in with a therapist again, do we need to specifically have the one who's the mom? She doesn't have her name on the podcast yet.
Mm-hmm.
But have her and you go, instead of having a list, but going specifically to talk about that?
It's probably not a bad idea. It's probably not a bad idea.
Because that's what you just shared feels significant. And if we're having nightmares about extubation and some of those moments too.
Yeah.
I thought that trauma were just bad things that happened a long time ago that I didn't remember and don't want to remember. I didn't think about like disrupted relationships with friends or therapists as counting as trauma, or some of the hard things that we've been through together counting as trauma?
Oh, absolutely.
What about our miscarriages?
Yes.
That counts as trauma?
Yes.
What about when you were in Hurricane Sandy?
While you were having a miscarriage? Yes.
So when we make that list of here's all the things that happened to us in our first year, like the dead parents,
Uh-huh.
all that counts as trauma?
Yes.
Well, we talked about her killing her mom.
Yes. One of you thinks that she's responsible for killing her mom.
Well, she is, right?
No.
What? But that counts as trauma because she thinks it or because it happened?
Losing your mom was a trauma.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go. You.
Well, I just want to say that I'm really glad we didn't lose you.
Yes.
Because those were really hard days.
Yeah, they were.
Months.
Mm-hmm.
Years.
Yes.
It was bad.
It was very hard.
I mean, not like bad between us because
Nope.
you were so good and kind and because we consciously chose you. But it was hard and scary in that I really thought for a minute we might disappear altogether.
I'm really glad you didn't.
I'm really glad you stayed. So, here, as an official interviewee on the podcast, Mr. Husband. Thank you. I almost said your name. Mr. Husband.
Yes, Mrs. Wife.
How would you describe today our redefinition of trauma? If what you just taught me and what we talked about in therapy today, how would you define trauma now?
I don't know if my understanding is like the good understanding or the correct understanding. So I'm scared to...
Well, no, just from what we talked about just now. Like, how would you put all of that together?
My understanding is that trauma comes from extreme emotional situations of loss or physical pain or fear, exposure to death in some form or risk of death, whether you or another person, loss of relationships, all of those things.
Let me put this right.
And I think what constitutes a trauma is different for each person. But those things are so difficult to process that they stick kind of like a lump. They don't just go in smoothly with the rest of your emotional history. And those little lumps of memory time sort of get hiccuped up. They pop up and it feels like you're living them again. There are memories that I have that I know are memories, even happy memories or sad memories or whatever. And then there are moments that when I think of them, it's like I'm back there again. Even though I know I'm consciously not, the emotions of that moment are just as present as they were when they happened. And those are usually the trauma moments.
So, if that's what trauma is and what makes it so hard, then what makes it better? How do we make it better?
By giving yourself, this is something your therapist talked about today,
Oh, man.
by giving those other selves the things they need to feel safe and happy. When I was doing therapy, I shared an experience from my childhood. Not as horrific as some of the experiences that you've had.
But you can't compare, right?
You can't compare. It was to me an experience that had haunted me ever since my childhood. And my therapist said, well, who stood up for you? Who got mad at those other people who did that? And I said, well, nobody. I didn't tell anyone that it happened. And she said, you know what? You can do it. You can step into that memory, yell at those other kids, comfort yourself, and make sure that you are okay. And I did that. In my imagination, the next time I had that sort of flare up, I got to be the grown-up in that memory and make sure that I was okay. And you know what? That memory lost its pain. Like, I can still remember it, and I'm sure it still affects me from time to time, but it was never as raw and present after that. Now it's just part of who I am, as opposed to something that overwhelms me.
Like in Labyrinth, you have no power over me.
Exactly like in Labyrinth.
So that's why we have to talk to each other to find out what we need and how to help them.
This looks like a
Yeah.
Like Molly with the kids.
Yes. And that's also why when one of you is
Disrespectful.
thank you, towards another one, I think it's self-sabotaging, because you will ultimately find the most happiness and peace when all of you are getting the help and respect that you need. Some of you have very simple needs. Some of you don't even need to come outside to meet your needs. You have ways to play and create inside. Some of you have a lot of things you want to do on the outside, and you're developing and growing as people, and so that requires more outside time. It requires more opportunities that you have to really coordinate with other people, and all of you need respect and love. I struggle to love myself. I don't have DID. It's something that's, again, just a human thing. You have to love all the parts of yourself.
Why does the therapist care? Like, she's listening to the podcast, that's time. She's reading the notebooks, that's time. She sees us every week, so she's stuck with us for 2 hours, and we only pay for one of them.
Because she sees your worth as a human being.
Wait, what?
She sees your worth as a human being, and she loves you for who you are. The same way I recognized you when I met you. I felt like I had known you forever.
You know what I love about how we met is that even though we didn't have words to talk about DID directly, like we didn't have the name of that or a therapist helping us at that time, you developed a relationship with so many of us. I mean, even when you proposed to us, you gave us a little toy monkey out of the machines at the
That's true.
restaurant.
Our proposal had several different steps to interact with several different people, I guess.
So that was meaningful, though. I think that was part of why we were able to commit to that, even though it was so scary and different than before, because we've never gone that far before.
Yeah.
Much less actual committing or believing. And we even tried to warn you away of like, here's everything that's wrong with us, or a broad description of everything wrong we've ever done or has happened to us, just so that you know we are already too ruined for you to choose us.
I believe that was our first phone conversation.
So much for good boundaries. Except it felt important that you know up front, like, this is what you're getting into. Like, we got to that dating point of, we can't go further into this if you don't know these things, because here's a list of all the reasons I think you will not stay. You stayed from the beginning. You already chose to stay.
Yeah.
What did the therapist say about gifts? About she's staying? Like, I said something about, like, it's not all good. Like, not all of what we have to say is as cute as John Mark or as funny as John Mark. He's going to be mad I said cute. But, but you know what I mean? Like, some of it's really ugly and dark and awful. And she was like, that's cool. I mean, that's not what she said, but.
Oh, each of those truths that you give to her, each of those things you share that you've been protecting for so long, is a kind of gift. And she considers them precious.
But they don't make her hate us.
No.
Those things don't make her go away.
No.
I feel like there's something huge there in a way beyond what I can comprehend or understand. That the worst things that we have to tell her or the hardest things or the darkest things or the ugliest things or however you want to phrase it, that those things are not so bad or ugly or awful that they make her go away.
That's how I feel too.
And I feel like that is a piece that we have not ever understood before. And that is a piece that has not always been true in the past.
Yes.
I don't mean with you or with her, but I mean with other people or other therapists, where there was like this threshold of now you are officially too much, or now your story is officially too hard. Or even our friends who, well, not friends, because I'm terrible at having friends, but I mean people in our life who are aware of our family and know the things that we've been through since we got married are like, you guys have been through so much. And that doesn't even count before.
It's true.
Right? So what you and she are both saying, ooh, like the law of two witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
What you two are both saying is that that's not actually a thing. Well, like in now time, the evidence, that's a memory thing, a memory feeling. The evidence is that you two are staying anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, snorkels.
Yeah, we've already gone through a lot of hard stuff. And then, like, here I still am, right?
High five for you, buddy.
Like, I just listened to that podcast recently where a woman experienced some medical trauma and her boyfriend, who she thought she was going to marry, immediately dumped her. There are people out there like that. You have experienced people like that who don't have real connections and bonds.
Wait, that's what she was saying about I've already given her pieces. Like you and she both already know enough that if you were going to leave, you already would have.
It's true.
Whoa.
If you were to share with us your darkest, most guarded, most shame-filled secret, we would still love you just as much as we do right now. I don't expect that's going to happen anytime soon because you've built up a whole system to protect it.
Well, I did today because that is my deepest, for me personally, just me, my deepest shame to say out loud is that I am been through too much and it's too bad and I am too bad to be kept or loved or chosen in a good way for the hope and help that you are both offering to be real. Not because you two are failing me, but because I am not worth that. Or not have already been condemned to not have that. I don't know how to say that better. I'm not very good at saying it out loud.
But I can say you are worth that, and it is not something you can earn. You are worth that just because you are you. It's independent of anything you do.
Which means it just is.
It just is.
But if it just is, then I can't mess it up.
It's true.
Which makes it real, after all.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay. I love you.
I love you.
Aww. Okay, but before we finish this episode, or before we finish recording this, you have to tell the story about what you and the therapist said at the end about John Mark.
So, the therapist was talking about all of the stuff that's going on inside right now. You were saying it felt like so much was changing. And she said, yes, there's a lot happening. There are people cleaning and sweeping and putting up lights and painting and making it all clean and nice, and I threw out and having dance parties up in the attic, and suddenly I had the idea, I had this image in my head of John Mark DJing the dance party, and Sarah just said he would totally be called like J Mark, the DJ. So now I have this image of him like up there playing tunes, having a little dance party, working the turntable.
Thank you for that. I will make sure that you know when music is blasting in my head because he now has another new job.
He's busy.
Thank you for joining us with System Speak, a podcast about dissociative identity disorder. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes, or follow along on our website, www.systemspeak.org. Thanks for listening.
Y'all, my arms feel very shaky. I don't know if it's nerves or just the dissociation we've gone through today and yesterday, but oof, I maybe a little bit of both. I'm just I feel like once I accomplish this tower, as silly as as it might sound, I think we'll be doing a lot better. Like I said, I'm enjoying this a lot, but it is kind of stressful too. But I'm so grateful for this fairy and the podcast. Anyway. See the camera like turning like that? Throws me off. Oh fuck! What?
My name is M, and I'm the one they call the mother.
Oh.
I didn't want to be on the podcast in the beginning because it's so embarrassing, and I already feel crazy. But things have been really hard for a long time.
Actually, I'm gonna go
And
to
I
the
try to
bathroom.
write in the notebooks for the therapist.
I'll be right back.
And I try to read them, but it's too overwhelming. I don't know that I want to know about things from the past. It's more than just uncomfortable. It's worse than that.
What's important to me is that I can function. I have children in the real world to take care of. So I don't need to be worrying about what's happening in my imagination or however that works. I need to focus and be present and be a decent parent. But when everything happened at Christmas, I kind of fell apart. Christmas is hard for me anyway because my parents are dead. Which I guess in some ways makes things easier, but it's just hard. And then the anniversary of my mother's death is just a week later. So it's just a hard time for me. So it was the worst timing in the world when family services showed up, trying to say that I was mentally unstable. Because I already felt like that anyway, so it just felt like confirmation of the truth. And I don't even want to be a parent if I can't be a safe one or a good one. I don't want to be around my kids if I'm not good for them. So when they said that, it really scared me. But the therapist and my husband said that there was nothing to worry about because what they were checking, everything was fine. And it played out just like they said, where the case was dropped immediately because there wasn't anything actually wrong. And we had all the documentation from the doctors and therapists and everything. But it was the worst thing that could have happened. It was the worst thing for me, and it was the worst thing for my children. I was in foster care growing up, and so it's scary to me when DHS comes, and it was scary dealing with DHS the whole time we were fostering. I'm not saying that all of family services is bad. Like, I had some good workers, and our family, when we were fostering, had some really good workers. So I'm not saying that they're all bad. I'm just saying it brings up a lot. And you never know until it's too late if they're good workers or not. Like, that's how it feels. So if I've learned anything from the podcast or from therapy, that's pretty much my problem. My problem isn't even dissociating. Like, maybe that's what their problem is. My problem isn't dissociating. My problem is that I can't tell the difference between what are my feelings or even their feelings sometimes. And I try to write in the notebook sometimes, but it's just hard, and it's hard to focus, and it's hard to have time enough to get a chance to write when it matters. And there's so much stuff in there, and I don't know how to see all of that stuff and not just deal with it, except I can't deal with it. So it's too much for me to look at the notebooks. But sometimes while I'm with the children, like at the park or when they're playing, I can listen to the podcast. And so it's starting to be less scary to think about there being others in there, and it helps understanding at least what's going on, I guess. But it's still so much to process, and it's just overwhelming. But I guess the other secret is that I can hear them. You can't just go around hearing voices. Like, that's not okay. That's not a normal thing. But now, because of the podcast, like, I am learning who is who, and I can understand their conversations better or differently or what's going on. So if it's really helping, then I want to say something too, because I don't have anyone else. I mean, I can talk to the husband about it, except he's just as overwhelmed as I am.
And I could talk to the therapist if I could ever get a turn, but when I try, the time is gone and it's over, or it's already happened and it's the next day and I missed it altogether. There's just so much, and I don't get a turn. And now there's this app on the phone where they're talking on the app and they talk to me and send me messages that way too. And sometimes it's good, like if there's something I need to know about the kids or where we're supposed to be when or what's going on, like that's been helpful. But it's also overwhelming because I forget that they're not real, except that it turns out that they are, and I don't know which is worse. But in that way, I guess I'm getting to know them. And they said if I talked on the podcast and shared some of my story, that maybe it would help because I'm holding too much inside. But talking about it isn't the same as therapy. But I can't even get to therapy. But then they showed me emails from people who are listening to the podcast and how it's helping them. And how they feel less alone because there's other people who understand. And their messages made me feel less alone. So I don't know if I've actually completely lost my mind.
Brittany's here.
And I just can't fight it anymore. I'm not strong enough. I don't know how to make it stop. Or if this is really a good thing and it will help me and maybe someone else. When I saw things in the notebook, one thing I was worried about were those inside kids. Like, I didn't know how to help them or what to do, but I knew someone should. And so I feel bad because I read some of those things and I didn't do anything about it. Because I just kept thinking that can't be real. Or I don't know how to help them. I don't know how it works. I don't understand how it could be me.
Gravy.
Because it's not me, but it's there. But also it's all I can do to take care of outside children. And I want to be a good mom, and I don't know how to take care of my own kids and also have all these kids inside. There's so many kids. They need so much. And I don't mean to be a bad mom. It's so hard. But on the inside now, there's that Molly one who's helping the little kids, so that's a good thing, right? Like, that feels better. At least someone is. So I'm glad, but I also feel guilty because it wasn't me. Maybe it should have been me, but I just couldn't do it. It was too much. So I feel bad because I didn't help them. It haunts me and I have nightmares about them at night. I have nightmares about the things I read in the notebooks, the things that I hear in my head. My own mother wasn't well. My own mother grew up in a very physically abusive home. And a very cold mother. Her mother was very distant and cold. And
So my mother had a lot of problems, but I think she just didn't know how to be a mom and didn't know how to get help. So that's one reason I keep trying to go to therapy and why I've not fought it more than I have, because I know that that's the only difference between me and my mother, is because I'm trying to ask for help. But it's really hard. My mother was very depressed. She had a lot of things to be depressed about, I guess. She had postpartum depression with my brother, who was 20 months younger than me. And I don't know that she ever really recovered from that. She also had to deal with my father, who was abusive in some ways, I guess. Abusive to her. She told me once that she told me once that the reason my brother was so mean and so angry is because he was conceived in rape. Who tells their child something like that? What am I supposed to say to her when she tells me things like that? But also, I think it was true. My brother was an angry child. He's an angry adult now. But she had bad boundaries like that. Like, she told me everything. So many things. I mean, things I don't remember because I remember them, but things I know because she told me. But also, so I don't want to tell my children things. Like, I want to model for them how to handle things, or I want them to know that their feelings are okay, but I don't want them to know all my nastiness. Not like she told me. She also had some times where she just wasn't coherent. Like, she would talk about things that didn't make sense. Or I wrote in the notebook once to the therapist about a time where she made us chili because it was snowing that day. Like, it's been snowing here. Except it wasn't really chili. It was a bowl of water with Scrabble tiles in the bottom, like floating, or not floating, but like it wasn't actually food. She had been in a car accident, a really severe car accident when I was young. I don't remember it. But because of that, she had several surgeries on her back and several other problems. And because of that, she got addicted to pain pills. And she was mean. She was just so mean. And I don't want to be a mean mom. Sometimes I hear myself talking to my children and I think, why am I even saying this? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not mean to my children the way she was to us sometimes. Like, I don't hit my children. I don't yell and scream the way she did. I have raised my voice, but I don't scream at them the way she did. But still, like, why can't I just be soft and kind? Like, why can't I want to be a good mom? I really, really do, but it's so hard. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to learn it.
And every day I wonder if they're not better off without me. Or what if I'm worse than where they came from? Like, I don't know if their lives are better because of me, or if I've helped any. I've tried so hard. She just wasn't well. My mother. I don't know what she was diagnosed with when I was young. She had several serious suicide attempts when I was in high school. I found her 3 of those times and had to call the ambulance. I don't know what they diagnosed her with or what her diagnosis was, but there were lots of issues. But then later, I was gone from my family for a whole decade. I don't even know why or how. I can't explain that. I just know I was gone. But when I found her, when we came back to the States and I found her, she had dementia and I was trying to take care of her, but she was so mean. And I wanted to be nice and I wanted to be good and I wanted to do the right thing, but it was so hard and she was so mean to me. I moved her into my house. I built a brand new house. Well, one of us did. I don't know who how that works. I don't remember building the house, but I know we built the house. Like, we worked with people and built it, like, with our hands. We designed it and built it. And there was space for her, and we moved her in to take care of her because she was all alone and so depressed. And it was just so sad. And I guess in some part of me wanted to, like, make things right somehow, or know that I had done all I could do to take care of her, or all of my part, or maybe that she would want to be my mom, but I don't think that she did. Or maybe she did in some part of her, but she just couldn't. I don't know. Or maybe it was my fault, like, I'm just so difficult and I had done so many bad things that she just didn't want to. I don't know. My father had cancer. My mother did too, actually, but she was in remission. And my father died. And I went to the funeral. She wanted to go, but my father had remarried and my stepmother didn't like her or me. And so she wasn't allowed to go. But she went to see my brother's children, like, to visit with them after. I was supposed to drive her. She asked me to drive her. But I couldn't. My husband and I had just been married and I had morning sickness and I wasn't feeling well and it was very emotional. And I just told her no. I told her I couldn't go to the extra things and I couldn't go visit the kids. And I should have. Like, I wasn't even a good aunt. I just couldn't. It was too hard. It was too much. And so I told her no. So she went anyway by herself. And she was older. She couldn't see. Like, I should have taken care of her. It's not like I was a child. I was being selfish. So my father died of cancer, and then my mother was killed by a drunk driver on the way home from the funeral. And I should have been driving her. It was my fault. And
And we had a miscarriage anyway, just one miscarriage after another, and it was because of the cancer. That's how we found out I had it. But they said the cancer is because of abuse, that it's scar tissue that's turned into cancer, and now they're having trouble getting rid of it, and we've been on chemo like 4 times, and now we have to take this pill for 5 years, and our hair is still just now growing back, and it's like none of those things matter. It's just so much, like I don't know where to put all of those things. There's no room left to put any of it. I'm tired of fighting just to be alive. I'm tired of fighting just for the right to exist. Just so tired. I'm so full, there's not room for anything else anymore. I sound so whiny and I'm crying. I didn't know I would be crying, and I'm sorry it's so whiny. It's just so much. And it's not even the real things. Like all of that, I should just get over it. I should let it go. I should let it be in the past. I know that. And I try. But the present isn't any easier. Well, I mean, it's hard differently. I have 6 children on the outside. Not my biological children. I lost 5 babies that were midterm pregnancies. So I saw them and I held them. But none of them survived. And that was my fault too. I mean, my body couldn't carry them. The scar tissue, that's how they found it all. I don't know why I have scar tissue. I don't know what abuse they're talking about. How can stuff from so long ago ruin everything now in the present? Like, if I finally got away, then why does it still have so much control over every single moment of my life? So I couldn't have children, so my husband and I fostered. I mean, I was in foster care, and when I had good foster homes, they made such a difference. So I always wanted to foster and help. And my husband, his parents fostered when he was little, and so he had always wanted to foster. So we talked about it before we ever had miscarriages, and we applied to be foster parents before we had miscarriages. I want to be clear about that, because you can't just foster because of miscarriages. That's not fair to you or the children. So we were already signed up to foster, and then we had our miscarriages, and then the foster children started coming and going and coming and going, and you invest so much into them just to keep them alive and just to help them adjust and help them deal with all of this stuff that is not their fault, that is not their problem, that they didn't ask to happen, and being torn from their families. It's so hard. It's so hard. And then you have to say goodbye, 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 like they leave and they leave and they leave. So we fostered for 5 years. Almost 100 children. But the 6 who couldn't go home, of course we adopted. What are we gonna say? No, please just send them to the shelter. I can't send them away. Of course we adopted them. And we love them. And now it's been 4 years since then. And so they're totally our kids. And I think they feel that too. And they know that.
But we also know that when it's safe, like attachment's really important, right? So when it's safe, we keep having visits with their families. Because with their biological families or extended families like grandparents or aunts, because like it's so important when you don't have anyone in your life or so few people in your life and they get snatched out of your whole life, even if it's for your own safety, like staying connected to who you can is so important. And so we still let them visit their families pretty regularly. So we're trying, like, the things that we know to do, we're trying. So there's 6 of them, and they all have special needs. We have triplet 10-year-olds. One is deaf, one has autism, and one has cerebral palsy. And we have twin 6-year-olds. One has fetal alcohol syndrome, and one has reactive attachment. And then the youngest was born without an airway. She had a twin sister, but the twin sister died. I got to hold her first. But then she was gone. The youngest has grown up in hospitals and has all these problems. And we've fought to keep her alive, but her life is pretty hard sometimes. She is a G-tube and she's on oxygen. And now she's on palliative care. They told us she wouldn't live 30 days, but she's still here. She's almost 4 and they're amazing. All of them are amazing. And we love them and they're really good. So it's not hard because they're bad. And it's not even hard because of the different challenges they face. It's hard because there's so many of them. And because I'm just not good at it, but I'm trying. But it's like... But it's just a lot of work. Like, we have 36 therapy appointments every week. I don't mean with the therapist, like for counseling. I mean like physical therapy and occupational therapy and feeding therapy and speech therapy and all of those. There's 36 appointments every week just for the children. And the youngest one is often in the hospital, so I get stuck. I mean, I can't say I get stuck, like that's a terrible thing. I don't want to say to her what she said, like, I don't want to put that on her shoulders. Like, I would never say that to her. I don't mean I'm stuck with her, but I mean to be in the PICU and like in the ICU with her while she's in a coma for weeks and weeks and weeks over and over and over again, or in the medical trauma of it, like being stuck in the hospital room. It just reminds me of other things that are not good and it doesn't feel good. And I get life flighted with her all the time and I would do anything for her, like I love her and I know it's the right thing. And so I feel really guilty for complaining. I don't mean to complain. I'm so glad that she's alive still and that we still have her with us. But when we get life flighted, they always strap her to me and strap me to a board and push us on the thing into the helicopter and off we go, but I'm strapped down and it's really hard for me. And then I don't know how long we'll be away from home. We don't get to take anything with us. I'm just on my own. Away from my husband and my children. Alone in a little room. Like, because of her sats with her heart rate or her oxygen, like whatever they're watching, if she's in a coma, then we can't overstimulate her, so I can't even play music or do anything. And they don't allow food in there, and so, like, I'm just on my own for months at a time.
It's just been really hard, but I don't mean to put that on her. Like, it's not her fault, I know that, and I don't at all mean to complain because I would do anything for my children, anything. I love them so much, and I'm so honored to have them in my home. They're amazing children. Amazing children. I just don't always feel like I'm enough. My husband and I both work from home. Well, I guess you know they call her Dr. E. But they work from home so that one of us is always with the children. Because we know that's important, and so we've tried our best. Like, all the things we know to do, we're trying. I don't mean that we're perfect, far from perfect, but I mean we're trying and we're present with them. And they're amazing, amazing children. And I'm grateful for every day that we've gotten with our youngest that we never thought we would have. And it's taught us so much about what love means and what family means and what being present in the moment means. So all of that is good. But at the same time, the more I learn about those things, the more I realize I don't know about them. I don't know how to stay present in the moment. I don't know what family means, and I don't know what love means. And it's so hard. But I don't want to mess up my children, and I don't want to harm them in any way. And so that's why I finally went to therapy. Because my parents died and my children died, and then my adopted daughter, when we realized she was gonna die, I think it was just too much. And so I finally found a therapist. Well, we tried another therapist first, but it didn't work, but I needed it so badly, I just kept going. I don't know how this helps anyone for me to say these terrible things out loud. These are things I should never say. I don't mean to complain. I'm so grateful. We are in a house where we have what we need and we are safe and comfortable. We are in an area now where we live where the children have the therapies they need. It took us 4 years to find where we needed to live, where all 6 children would have what they need. And we're in a beautiful spot. And so I'm so grateful. And I have nothing to complain about. But I cry all the time. And it's so hard, and I'm so afraid of doing something wrong. And my husband is so supportive. Like, he's a good and kind and gentle man, and I'm grateful. But I can't ask more for him or more support from him because he already does so much. So I don't know what to say about DID or inside kids or how to function on the outside. I just know it's really important to me to do it right and to take proper care of my family. And that I have to figure out how to work out this DID stuff because I have to be in the right place at the right time. And maybe that's really simple for everybody else, but it's really hard for me. Things like field trips and backpacks and lunches and permission slips and all of those things are like multiplied times 6. And trying to track all of that and be where I am and in the right place at the right time, like, it's so hard for me. So I need to be in therapy so that I can function and so that the children have what they need. My husband tells me I'm not a danger to the children, and my husband tells me that I'm a good mom. And I try to be present in their schools and helping with their teachers, and Their teachers say that they're good kids and that they're doing well. And the therapist, if that's what she said, was look at the evidence, then the evidence is that I'm doing okay, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing okay. And I'm afraid if I don't do okay, so I don't know how to hold all of that.
Gravy.
And I can't have
Gravy.
dinner ready quickly for 8 people. If I've lost an afternoon, like, I need to be able to track time. I need to know what's going on. I need to be able to prepare so that the children have what they need, the husband has what he needs, that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and keeping up with the care of all of the kids and their showers and their laundry and G-tube feedings and oxygen settings, like making sure the supplies get here, all of these, like, it's just so much.
Gravy.
And if I can't tell the difference between what is a nightmare and what is actually present time of, yes, I am resuscitating my own child, like, I have to be able to tell what is reality and what is not. Or if it's all reality, then I need to tell what is inside and what is outside. I don't want to be like my mom. And I feel guilty for even saying that because I shouldn't disrespect my mother. And I know she went through a lot because of the things that she told me. And I think also I have a lot of guilt for being away for that whole decade, when I should have been helping her or taking better care of her, and it maybe wouldn't have been so bad at the end. I should have just
Gravy.
met her that day. I should have
It keeps
been
making me
driving.
nervous.
I can't undo that. So what if something like that happens with the children? Like, people can't just, people say everybody makes mistakes, but when I make mistakes, people die. Like, I can't make a mistake. I can't make a mistake. Maybe I'm making a mistake in sharing all of these things. But I read about therapy yesterday and I listened to the podcast, and if we're going to talk about things, then we need to get to it because I've got to be able to take care of these children. So if we're going to talk, then we need to talk. So I'm trying. So when I'm this upset, the therapist tells me 2 things. One, that I need to take deep breaths, which is really hard to do, but if I don't calm down, I'll have like a full panic attack or something. The other thing I learned from what she said is to look for the evidence of what is true in now time. And right now, in now time, the only evidence I can find that maybe I'm an okay mom is that after all the children are in bed, when they're asleep, when they're ready to go to sleep, I sit in the living room and I play my cello so that they can still hear that I'm with them, so that they know that I'm still here, so that they know they're not alone.
Thank you for joining us with System Speak, a podcast about dissociative identity disorder. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes, or follow along on our website, www.systemspeak.org. Thanks for listening.
Baby is driving me crazy. Okay, I think he's finally going to the couch. I don't know if you realized in the last video, he kept clicking a button on the mouse that would make Beebs glide. So he kept getting on the desk near the mouse and it kept making me nervous. So I kept trying to hold him on my lap, but he wants to be on the desk near the mouse. It's so annoying. Anyway, I feel good that I got to floor 56. I'm a little annoyed that I fell, and now I'm back at 40. I feel like... Ugh. Well, what I was about to say kind of just discounts what happened just now. Okay. I was gonna say, I feel like the floors at this point aren't that bad, except for 43. I hate 43. Because the walls and then the rotating platforms are so hard for me to get a handle on timing. Anyway, for some reason, I gotta pee again. I hate our bladder. I hate it so much. I'll be right back, and we can listen to more podcasts. Alright. Also, there's a friend we have that has a Discord that was gonna watch a movie in about an hour, so there's a chance I'll have to just pause the game, stop the recording, and go back later tonight. We'll see. I would love to finish this in an hour. I don't know if it's possible, but...
Hi, we have a very special guest today. We got to talk with Jane Hart from Many Sides of Jane, the show that's on A&E about dissociative identity disorder.
No.
Jane Hart is a 28-year-old loving mother of two, an author, a public speaker, and a mental health activist. Born and raised in Boise, Idaho, Jane currently resides there with her two beautiful sons. 3 years ago, Jane was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, previously known as multiple personality disorder, which has impacted her life in ways she never could have imagined. One of the exclusive causes of DID
Forgot
is
the fairy
repeated
didn't
childhood
recharge.
trauma, to which Jane has unfortunately endured throughout her life. Dubbing herself a human information sponge, Jane has spent countless hours researching the effects of trauma on the brain, as well as learning as much as she can about DID in the hopes of helping others. Receiving her diagnosis was tough on Jane mentally and physically, but sharing her condition with a close friend was a turning point for her. Despite their close relationship, her friend assumed Jane was dangerous, damaging their friendship and leaving a lasting impact on Jane. This pivotal point in her life has inspired Jane to shine a light on the cause to diminish the stigma of mental illness, especially those living with DID. In June 2016, Jane wrote an article sharing her knowledge of DID and her personal struggle, which led to a speaking opportunity on a well-known psychology podcast, Shrink Rap Radio. The opportunity to chronicle her life living with DID on the new docu-series titled Many Sides of Jane, airing on A&E. Under the guidance of her therapist, Jane has currently identified over 9 distinct identities, or parts as Jane refers to them, and she's working to unlock the mysteries surrounding her trauma and to find internal harmony between her many sides. Upon agreeing to participate in this rare and raw series, Jane made a promise to herself to be 100% open, real, and honest, letting the world see that those suffering from DID still have the same hopes and dreams as everyone else. Jane's goal in opening her life to the cameras is not only to erase the misconceptions about the highly stigmatized disorder, but to also normalize mental illness and to spread truth about the silent epidemic of child abuse and its lasting effects on the human brain. Jane feels there is power in sharing her story, and it is her mission to help others realize mental health is just as important as physical health. Those suffering with DID are special, smart, and unique. They deserve compassion, kindness, and understanding. We are very honored to speak with Jane Hart and had a delightful conversation. In speaking with Jane, it was very clear that she was not a victim, but a strong woman with good boundaries, good representation, and that she's done a good job advocating for herself in this not sensationalized production. And they've also taken good care of her before, during, and after the show with good self-care, and she'll give you some examples during the interview. And just like on the series, we kept the interview raw and real and left in all the exciting parts, like when my children were running through the house while we were trying to talk. That opened us to a conversation about parenting where we found we had several things in common. It was a really good experience, this interview, and I so appreciate her sharing with us. Here's Jane Hart.
I am Jane Hart, and I have dissociative identity disorder, and right now I have like probably 18 plus parts, but on the show we only name around 9. But as you know, things evolve.
Right. Well, and I know for us on the podcast, like there are some who are participating and there are some who have opted out, which is totally fine. And,
yeah, absolutely.
right, and we try to respect that, but then also there's others who are not in the present time even enough to actually really give consent. You know what I mean? So we just don't go there. Like, it's just not, we're not here for displaying everything. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that. I really like thinking about it like the way that you just described it. That's nice to be able to relate to someone else in that aspect.
Well, it's a big deal, I think, right? Like, all of trauma, however people define trauma or whatever trauma might be specifically, it always comes down to a violation in some way. And
Absolutely.
so it's important that at any level of whatever we're doing, that everyone has a voice and a vote. And if someone doesn't understand the implications of something, like we have a few littles who know that the therapist might listen to the podcast, but that doesn't mean that they understand that other people listen too.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really difficult and interesting thing to navigate in therapy with my therapist about the documentary, and like which parts wanted to participate and which parts were like absolutely against it, or whatnot. There was just varying opinions about it inside. We're a lot more on the same page now, but still so many different, directions that my parts are going.
Right, just like with everything else, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me first, before we even get into the show, tell me first, how did you find out about your diagnosis? Is it something you always learned? Someone told you? You figured it out? What happened?
I had started therapy in 2014, and I just started going to a social worker and a clinical social worker, and him and I worked together for almost 2 years, and about a year into treatment, we have this conversation, and he goes, like, he had diagnosed me with PTSD, and then he just said, "Jane, you dissociate." And I was like, well, we already knew that, because of the PTSD. I just didn't realize what he was talking about. And then he goes, no, like, you have different parts of yourself that, have come out to me in therapy and stuff like that. And and then I found out Alexis, my 17-year-old part, had come out to him, to which I had no knowledge. And so, like, just different things started to happen. And then once he said that, it was just like, okay, I have to make sure that this is, like, accurate, that this is even, like, happening to me right now. You know what I mean? Like, it was such a big, giant piece of news for my life. And so I found Dr. Waters, and he did all the testing, the SCID-D and MMPI and a bunch of different tests, and, finally told me, yes, you have DID, and this is how we're going to treat it, etc.
How did that sink in, like, through the layers of you?
Oh, yeah, it took several months of, like, just swimming in that denial, and it was painful, like, in the denial of, like, this can't be real, this can't be happening to me, like, like, and then also the realization that I don't remember all of my childhood, and now that's front and center in my brain, and I'm thinking, what else happened to me? Like, what else could have happened to me that I don't already know about? And which those memory gaps had always been there. I'd pushed it to the side. You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, it took a long time. It was a difficult process. But I made a denial book, and it really helps me out whenever I have a hard time or whatnot. But it took a long time for everybody inside to feel okay, and then even for my life to just get back to normal, almost like homeostasis. I've had to find that again.
Wow. What did you say, a denial book?
Mm-hmm.
What is a denial book?
So, you know the feeling of denial that I'm talking about, right? Where you think, okay, well, in the first part of this book is just this big, 3-ring binder, and I put my paperwork of my diagnosis and, like, letters from my doctors and stuff like that prove, I have DID. And then, even because in episode 6, sorry to jump forward, but in episode 6, Harvard, and we have a Harvard professor who does an fMRI on my brain at McLean Hospital in Boston, and it shows changes between Beth and I, my 10-year-old part, and, like, sparking major research in the field. And so, like, that is something that we'll venture into and explore, like, when it airs on Tuesday. But I just lost my entire train of thought. Oh, but denial book. Okay. Sorry.
It's fine.
But I just made, and then I just put a bunch of stuff together, like journal entries from when I was a kid, because I saved all my journals since I was like 6 or 7, and I went through them, and I ripped out some pages about the abuse, and I put it in there. And so anytime I would deny, or I would think, or those scripts from my abusers that were just so ingrained in my head, when those would start to take over, like, just consume me, I would open up that denial book, and I would be like, no, this is real, this is tangible, like, look at this, you know what I mean?
That's amazing, actually.
It really helps. I have it sitting on my bookshelf, and I look at it frequently, and so do other parts.
That's amazing. I had never even thought about that. That's something, obviously, a lot of people struggle with in therapy, and in the process of this, and we had journals from when we were children too, but we don't have them now. But we do have like contact with our therapist or different things that document it. But that's amazing you compiled it all together in one thing so anyone can look at it when they need to.
Yeah, it's kind of like a safety blanket, essentially.
How did you find your therapist?
I looked on, to be completely honest, I went to psychologytoday.com and I looked on there, and I wanted to find someone with their PhD who could do all the testing, and someone who had a background in trauma therapy and stuff like that. And I just, it was bizarre. When I reached out to him, I sent him an email and I just said, my current therapist thinks I have DID. I really need to get tested. Are you available? Is this something that you're interested, or is this something that you believe in, essentially? Because I've been there were so many other like psychiatrists and therapists and stuff like that, just people in the medical community that turn up their noses and they're like, you're lying, even though it's right there in the DSM-5.
Right.
And so I just had to make sure that he wasn't one of those. And then he wrote me back and he said, oh my God, he goes, this is incredible. He said, I just met with my aunt this weekend, and I asked her, how do I find DID clients? How do I find patients that have DID? Because his aunt has been a pioneer in DID treatment in Spokane, Washington, or in Vancouver, Washington for decades.
Wow.
Like, and for decades. And so like he grew up around women with DID. She has a whole house up in Vancouver, Washington it's a respite home for women with DID. They have like an entire art room and for like quotes about your littles, and like it's so random. So he reached out, we finally connected, and then it just worked out.
That's amazing. I think you hit on something there, because one of the hardest pieces is getting a diagnosis. But
yes,
the other big piece is finding someone who can help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and what's difficult, and what I think a lot of therapists don't understand, is that just because you've never had a DID patient, like, it doesn't mean you don't know how to treat it. It's you're treating trauma, and you can research, and there are more things that you can do, and it's better to have a rapport with that client than to pass them off to somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I would go so far as to say, if they think they have not had a DID client, they're probably wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very true.
Especially the more we find out about dissociation and how it works in the brain and how much more common it is than what people realize.
Well, and what's fascinating is that in my apartment building, I live in a really big apartment building, and so there's tons of other people that live here. And I have now met, because of the show, I have now met 5 other people that have DID in my building alone.
Oh
like,
my goodness.
That is crazy. So you know that, like, there are so many others, you know what I mean? And there really are.
It's a powerful thing when you meet someone else with DID.
Mm-hmm.
There's something validating about it. You have to be careful about boundaries and making sure, like, safety and maintaining things like that, just like in any other relationship. But there's something powerful about connecting with someone who understands what life is like.
Absolutely. Well, and it's just, it's been these, and I don't know them very well, the people that are in my building that also have DID. They've just kind of, in passing, said, thank you. Like, I have DID as well. And it's just, like, been this powerful moment. Like, we may never speak again because it's, like, whatever, but still that, that solidarity. Like, I don't know, it's a very powerful thing.
Well, and it has its own coming out process. And for them to be able to say out loud, I have DID, to someone else who is safe and understands that, even if they don't connect with you otherwise, that's a big moment.
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge moment for anyone with a trauma history, to be completely honest. To be able to connect with somebody else about the very things that have defined us in a way,
There's something about finding our voice again and being able to say things out loud, even if that's the only piece we say.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Okay, let's jump to the show. How did that even happen? Like, where did, how
I
did
know,
you
right?
get from this to that? What happened?
I feel like it's still just sinking in. I don't even know or understand. No, I'm kidding. But no, I've had a while. So I've had a while for it to sink in. But we've been working on it for about 2 years, and the way that they found me. So when I was first diagnosed with PTSD, I wrote an article about PTSD, and then I realized a year or two or a year into therapy that I might have DID, and then once I realized I had DID, I began reading everything I could get my hands on, scholarly articles, books. I'd go to the library. I probably spent way too much money on books.
Right?
But yeah, and those are expensive. Those Norton review series, those Norton series, yeah. But and I wrote an article about DID, after realizing that, yeah, just the statistics that they're that we people with DID are in the system for 5 to 12 years before they're properly diagnosed.
Wow.
Or that 70% of people with DID attempt suicide at some point in their life. That's higher than any other mental health diagnosis out there.
Yes.
And and it's just like, when I realized that, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I've always had this passion for helping other people and for using my talents that the universe gave me, like writing and all that stuff. So I wrote an article, and because of that article, I was given the opportunity to go on a well-known psychology podcast on Shrink Rep Radio. And I went on Shrink Rep Radio to talk about DID and to educate, his viewers and stuff like that, or his listeners. And then Renegade 83 Production Company, like 2 months later, sent me a message on Facebook and found me because of that podcast interview. And ever since then, we've been working together to make the series. And it was kind of, from the beginning, it was just like this, what they kept calling it, it was their passion project, is what they'd say. The network and Renegade is what they've always said about Many Sides of Jane. They say this is their passion project. And because they know how important this topic is, and they know that people with DID need help, and we need that voice, that loud voice. And A&E knew they could provide that. And so it's been this process where we have legitimately been in this collaborative and incredible relationship where we're all on the same page, and we're all trying to do the disorder justice and to get it right for everybody that struggles with it, and to make sure that we say, everybody's system is different. Like, mine is probably, it may not match yours, and everybody's looks differently and is different, because we're all creative individuals and have a different brain. But it's something that I feel has just been, the universe kind of laid this out for me, and it just kind of, I don't know, it took a lot of deliberation to decide to do it, but once I did, I just was both feet in.
Oh, seriously. All the feet in.
Yeah. All the feet.
That's been such an intense experience, I can't imagine.
Do you know the feeling? I'm sure you do, but you know how it is so hard to recharge when you're around people?
Yes.
Like with DID. Like, it's just almost impossible. And so I struggled. I worked, it was 12-hour days for 8 weeks, with, 1 day off a week. And it was intense. It was like intensive therapy for 8 weeks, because you constantly are being asked, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Who's close to the surface? But it's not in a bad way. They're not badgering you. They're not being mean. They all made sure that we were taken care of, that we were cared about, that we were, safe and felt loved and appreciated, and all of that stuff. But it was just, it was grueling. It was so grueling. And afterwards, because we knew it was going to be hard, my therapist said, you know, Jane, he said, I'm here for you. And he goes, but this documentary series, he said, this will bring you guys to the edge of your psyche. And he goes, I believe you're strong enough. And he said, and you'll be okay, but it's going to be really hard. And so afterwards, they sent me to like a trauma center, to the Ross Institute, and to kind of recover a little bit afterwards. And they paid for all of that. And so they've been really careful and cautious throughout this whole time with me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That they really, I think that's reflected in the show. I know the show itself is not the same as what your experience was, but I think it's reflected in the show too, how they seem to be aware of that and trying to be cautious with that. So yeah. I think everyone is glad to hear. I think there's two pieces when you have an audience. I experienced this on the podcast just in a tiny scale, so I can't imagine what you're dealing with. But people, there's this one layer where people feel very connected to you, and another layer where, because of that, they feel very protective of you.
Yes, and absolutely.
And so I think people are glad to hear that that was handled so well and that they were so aware. Yeah. It shows that they were trauma informed to begin with, to know that there would need to be some self-care after.
Yeah, absolutely. And they really, they really took the guidance from Dr. Waters, and from Dr. Chavez. They really, listened to them about DID and what I needed. And they also listened to me and what my parts and I needed. And so it was really incredible. And I couldn't have imagined going on this endeavor, without my attorney, and how incredibly careful she was in the beginning of this whole process. Because when they first met me, or when they first started talking to me, I needed to make it known that I was not going to be misrepresented. I wasn't going to do this if they were going to sensationalize this disorder, because that's the last thing we need as a group of people. And so my attorney, she's incredible, and she just kind of fell into my lap. But she knows the business in and out, and she advocated for me, and she made sure that the network understood where I was coming from and where I was at, and what I expected from them. And they have been nothing but incredible to me. So it's been good.
It feels like such a large-scale example of practicing good boundaries and good self-care, and some of those things we're supposed to be learning how to do internally, and you did it externally. Because that's a lot of people. When you're talking about your therapist and the doctor and the Colin Ross place and the producers and the show and all that, that's a whole system in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it brought me a ton of newfound self-awareness and newfound compassion for myself, even, because it's almost like, when you're going through the rigmarole of life, and you're going through the rhythm, and you're my life as a single mom is so busy, and I have medical conditions. I have my kids are both they both have different needs that are, I'm at the school frequently, and so life can get really busy. But when you see it on TV, and you see it on screen, and you're watching everything put together in my story, it's just the weirdest thing to watch. It's so strange, but it also gives you just a new outlook on yourself. And I feel like I'm very blessed that I got this opportunity, despite no matter how difficult it was. I feel like I've come a long way.
It was a positive impact beneficially, even though it was so grueling to do.
Yeah, it's been a positive thing. The messages that I've received since the show has come out have been, overwhelmingly positive, and really just, it's just a bunch of people standing in solidarity with one another about mental illness and childhood trauma and DID, that stuff. It's like all the people that haven't had a voice they're messaging me and saying, like, thank you for doing this, and or I experience the same thing where they're just making that human connection that it's just a cool thing. It's very cool, but it also adds its own unique set of stresses to my life. But I'm managing very well, I think.
It changes things. I know when we started the podcast, it was for similar reasons what you shared of just wanting to educate, trying to be vulnerable because it's so real and people think it's not real or there's all the stigma. And so trying to include those layers, but the more that comes out, then the more that's exposed. And then it just went viral, like it went crazy. And so then everybody was listening to it and talking about it. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait, what happened?
Yeah.
And when you start getting those emails of like, I don't know who you are or what happened.
Yeah.
But then when you hear people's stories or start connecting with people and seeing how uniting together internally or externally in different ways not just gets you on the same page or helps you get help, but there's such an empowering thing that we can do for ourselves and for each other as a community.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. That was so eloquently stated.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What surprised you most about the show? Either doing it during those grueling weeks or watching it back later?
What surprised me most, is that what you asked? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I would say watching it later, because so throughout filming, I would make these, and I honestly, to this, I feel bad to this day for making these comments. But like, I was thinking in my head, I was like, I know Hollywood, or I thought I did, and I was like, so I'm probably not going to be happy with everything in the episodes, and I can't change that. And so I was like, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to get through it, and I'm not going to watch it. And that was what I was thinking. I was like, I can't watch it. This has been too hard. Like, I need to get through it and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then I don't want to watch it. And I would, like, make these flippant comments to the crew saying, oh, I'm not going to watch it, or there's no way I could watch it, or, I'm scared, or I'm terrified, or, I'd say all these different things. And what has been interesting is that now that I've seen the episodes and watched it, come together, I find myself sometimes just bawling, because it's like, I could not have pictured anything more beautiful than what they came up with. And like, I know that there are ways in which it could have been better, obviously, but from the vantage point I was at during production and how hard that was, it really makes me proud of going through that, of getting through that, and of what I did.
It is a beautiful thing. It really is well done.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I was just so proud of everybody, and I can't believe the amount of work that goes into making something like that. Like, I was just so fascinated the entire process. Like, it's a fascinating process, indeed.
It's intense. They work really hard.
They really do, and everybody does. Like, it's, and when they were putting it together in post-production, because, my younger parts, like, my abusers would use empathy, like my empathy, like, against me. And so I think that I'm more like some of my younger parts are like a lot softer and want to make sure everybody is okay a lot of the time. And so especially people that have helped us. And so when we were going through post-production and I was seeing, how this was coming together, and it was affecting me so emotionally, I begged them, I said, please, please, please fly us down, like, to do the last round of pickups, and I want to meet everyone in that office and shake their hand and give them a hug and tell them thank you. And they were just like, okay, like, we've never had that happen, but sure. And my younger parts felt so satisfied, because we just wanted to, like, look at each one of them in the eye and just, like, pour out our hearts and be like, you have no idea how much this has touched us.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I have seen only good feedback, and in the community that I have talked to people about, or even at the DID conference in Florida, where did you hear that?
I did. What was that?
Was that at your house or my house?
I think that was at your house.
I have children home on a school day, on a snow day, so I'm not sure what's happening out there.
Oh, no.
I'm just gonna
really
let that
truly
go for
know
right
that
now.
feeling where you're like, where...
Oh goodness, sorry. So anyway, at the DID conference in Florida, people were talking about it there, and
Oh, cool.
they're talking about
Good.
it in the groups online, obviously, and everything that I have seen has been really good, other than people where it was just too close to home and they weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I've seen that was negative was how they portrayed the switching. But for me, and I'm not speaking for other systems, maybe that made them uncomfortable for whatever reason. But for me, I thought I loved it. I didn't think it was too over the top, like the
Good. Yeah.
fuzzy faces or whatever, because for me that's how I feel, not quite in my body or not sure where my body is, like
Yeah.
when I saw that, to me it was not too much special effects. For me it was like, how did they do that? How did they show that? Because that's what it feels like to me when they're switching. I don't know about how it feels even to other people inside. But my experience of switching, it's just like what they showed visually. That's how I feel.
And I think that's what they were trying to capture. But I think the whole purpose for putting that edit in there is because we know, as people with DID, how subtle those switches can be,
Right.
and how Hollywood, hypes it up, and it's like we don't sprout wings, and we know that, and so, like, when we switched, it was hard, from the network's perspective. It was like, well, we have viewers that need to be able to understand and know when Jane has gone from one part to the next, and so they just needed that little, bit of editing, I think, in there to just say, okay, everybody, like, now she's switched to Jaden or Beth or whatnot. And it was also representative of how loud it can get in my head, and the feeling of chaos.
Yes. I really appreciated it because that's how it feels to me.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was a good visual art, even not just
Cool.
a special effects, but there was an art piece to it of how they expressed that. And you're very right about how loud it gets when they're switching and when there's people arguing or more opinions about something, and it does feel like there's many sides, not just that there are inside, but many sides to this argument or many sides to this topic, or I'm trying to focus on something and there's so many opinions on one thing.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, yeah. It feels so good. It's such a unique experience to talk to somebody else with DID.
Right?
And even for, like, I feel like even for others to, like, see two people interact that both have DID, because it's like this, oh, it's so interesting. It's like this unconscious understanding.
And
know
you just
what I mean?
resonate, like you already understand.
Yes, and like we just get it, and we just know we get it, almost like the committee in our head recognizes the committee in your head. You know what I mean?
I already am working on the understanding that it's not just you I'm talking to. There's already a crowded room, and someone's climbing in my house. I don't even know.
Well, I hope your kids are okay.
I have 6 kids, so there's no telling what's happening.
Well, that's amazing. You have a full-time and a half job.
We love the children. There's a lot of them.
We do. That's really funny.
There's so many children. So when you think about children inside and children outside, like, parenting is exhausting.
It is. And do you also, like, have a hard time not ruining Christmas every year?
Yes. Yes.
I having little parts inside, like, and the ones that, like, want to find the presents with my children, like, it's not okay.
Yes. It's true. In fact, yesterday we had an incident where the children were supposed to be coming home from school and the husband was going to be there. And when they walk home from school, we always open like the front door, but the glass door is still closed, you know? But it's easy for them to open the glass door. So we always open the front door so that's not hard for them. And they come in and my husband deals with them while I sort of transition from my day without children to my day with children, which obviously involves some switching, right? So he always helps with that transition. But he had taken another child, picked them up early, and taken them to it for a doctor's appointment. And they were delayed getting back because of the weather. And so I didn't know that. And somehow we missed the timing. And the door was closed. And so the children thought no one was home. And it turned into this big whole thing. And I was like, I don't know why you didn't just come in the house, because the door was not locked. The door was not locked. The door was not locked. Because I was working, so I didn't go down and lock the door. I didn't lose time. Like, you guys can't pin this on me.
Right?
But then, after we talked to the kids, we went to the kitchen, and they were like, dinner was already cooked. And I was like, oh! I totally locked my kids out. And so, it was me, except it wasn't me. Oh.
Oh my goodness. Navigating parenting, with a bunch of parents is definitely an experience in and of itself.
Yeah. It's so intense. And the surprises, that's always hard. That's always hard.
Yes. Yeah, that is a hard one.
We got Legoland tickets for our child who was turning 10, and that was his birthday present. And I was so excited because he's waited to get to go. And obviously there were some insiders that were very excited to also go. So it was a big deal. And so like he blows out his candles and we give him the tickets. And before he's even done opening the envelope, he's like, "Are these my Legoland tickets?" And I'm like, how do you know? Who told you?
Oh, that's awesome.
It's hard. So yeah, good and bad. What's the hardest thing about parenting with DID, do you think, besides presents?
I would say the hardest thing about parenting with DID is the noise, to be completely honest with you, because I love my children, and being a mom is so easy for me and for my parts that like it's the noise that really I have a hard time with. Both my boys, they have like severe ADHD, and my youngest has he has autism, and so they're both like super smart, but have so much energy, and they're very vocal, and they're amazing. They tell the most incredible stories, but they're very loud. And so like if I'm having a hard time, or if my head hurts, or if there's a lot of switching, or for instance, if an episode is airing, or it's a Tuesday, sometimes all I want to do is like shut myself in the room for like an hour because I can't think straight. You know what I mean?
Right.
When there's so much noise. And I couldn't imagine with 6 kids. That would be overwhelming.
It's bad. Well, and we are like my body is deaf. Like everybody is deaf, completely deaf. But we have cochlear implants. So with the cochlear implants, I can talk on the podcast. I can edit the podcast. I can hear in real life. I can hear like one person at a time. I can hear one sound at a time. And
really?
So how that changes internally, or what hearing my voices are like internally, which sometimes is seeing them because our native language is sign language.
Yeah.
And having that out with the kids and those issues, it gets really complicated. And so I can cheat because I can take my ears off. And so that can help. I can take my ears off, and it takes away the volume of the outside kids.
I couldn't even imagine what that experience is like. And I wondered, like, that... Sorry, this is where my head goes because I'm such a scientist. But I go like, oh my gosh, I wonder what that would look like. under an fMRI. You know what I mean, with your hearing and with DID and the different things like that. That's very interesting.
Right? It's a different experience and just a different perspective. But hearing all that noise together internally with the external noise is so hard.
It is very, very hard. That is something I struggle with. But I really enjoy putting in like binaural beats, and I'll just, put headphones in and look at there's like tons of different apps for binaural beats, but I set it to a certain, brainwave or a certain tone frequency, and then it'll help calm me down and stuff like that. It does help soothe the internal noise as well.
That's amazing.
But they are tones that go into both of your ears and that change your brain waves to a different state that you want to be in. Like if you want to feel more relaxed, you go into alpha or, beta or whatever. And then if you want to, I'm not sure, I can't remember which ones.
I've read about that, and I've read the research on that, but I didn't know there were just
Creepy.
apps for it. I should have made that connection, but I didn't at all.
Yeah, they're really cool. The apps are super helpful.
My oldest son also has autism.
Wow.
He was probably the one that was climbing.
Maybe. Yeah. My youngest, he's so cute. He's very very smart. But he does climb everything. That's for sure. And he has no fear.
Right. They have that, and it's a thing. Okay, anything else? I'm sorry, got off topic. I apologize.
It's totally fine. It's okay.
I'm just trying to stay focused.
I actually have a question for you. I was just curious. Do you also, have you read about, I'm sure you have, the Adverse Childhood Experiences
Yes.
test?
ACEs?
Yep. So, do you also have, random and weird and unexplainable, health issues as well, along with your DID? Because I know, it's so common for other people with DID, and one of my friends, Julie, who also has DID, she has several different issues that, go right along with the research in the book about the ACEs test.
I do. I have several things that I don't mind sharing. One is I have an autoimmune disorder that took a really long time for them to figure out what was going on. And
oh, wow.
So we're trying to get treated for that and trying to address that. But it's pretty cranky, like most autoimmune disorders, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other thing is, I'm trying to take a moment for internal approval. What can I share?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so sorry if that caught you off guard too.
No. It's totally fine. I also don't want to be too triggering, so I'm just trying to think. So the other issue that we have medically is that because of abuse, we have scar tissue that turned into cancer. And we've been fighting cancer for 5 years. That's because of scar tissue from the abuse.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
So those are kind of the two ways it's presented for us. But I absolutely think it's about ACEs. And then my children are all adopted from foster care. And
wow, you are a beautiful soul. That's amazing.
We're a mess.
Nah.
But we're trying. But I see the same thing with them. Different things coming up with them that are related in the same way. I mean, they all have special needs. We have 3 10-year-olds. One is deaf, like me, with cochlear implants. One has autism, and one has cerebral palsy. And then we have 2 6-year-olds, and one of those has fetal alcohol, and one has reactive attachment. Baby that's on palliative care. Well, she's not a baby. The baby of the family. You know how that goes. She's 3, almost 4. She's not a baby at all anymore. But she was born without an airway, and that is obviously a problem. And she's on palliative care and has a G-tube and oxygen and all of that. But all of them, I see the ACEs stuff with them too.
Wow. And what an incredible opportunity that you have to just make a difference in 6 incredible kids' lives. You changed their entire lives. Like, that is, it blows me away. That's amazing.
We're trying. We're trying.
Oh,
It's hard.
I bet.
And
Sounds very fun.
the DID piece explains some things and makes other things harder, but was already there before we had words for it, so it doesn't necessarily change things.
Just standing right in my face.
Yeah. You are awesome.
What's up,
you are
buddy?
a very good human. It's very awesome to like get to talk to you and that you wanted me on your show and all of that stuff.
Oh, well, I appreciate your time and I appreciate you talking to
Wait.
us.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
of course.
Is there anything else that you want to share about you or the show or anything we missed or any impression you feel from listeners that you get asked a lot that you want to say here or anything like that?
I guess the only thing I really want to say at the end here is just that the people that have reached out to me, you know, in quite frankly in terror of the fact that they may have DID, that they related so deeply to my experience that they may have it. Like, I feel like I just want to tell them that it's going to be okay and that, like, it gets so much easier, you know? And, like, the more my parts and I have learned to work together and the more I've gotten to know them and, like, who they are and why they're here and why they helped me and how, like, it makes life so much more manageable and so much happier and fuller. And, you know, just like in the beginning of therapy when I was so scared, one of my biggest fears was to actually feel the emotion, like, of sadness and to cry, because I couldn't cry. Like, I could cry and watch movies. I could watch sad movies, and that was how I cried, and I would use that as an outlet because I didn't have access to it otherwise.
Right.
But I was so afraid of finally opening up that dam. But once I did, I'm able to now feel other emotions like happiness even more deeply and fuller. You know what I mean? And I had forgotten about that. And so I guess it's just like, it makes me sad that there's a lot of people out there that are struggling or that are in this panic mode. And I just want to, I want to be like, it'll get better. Like, hang in there.
It's so true. It's really scary in the beginning when you don't understand what's going on or why it's happening.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, the more that we learn, which for us has happened a lot through the podcast, kind of like you talk about watching the show. Like, I've learned so much that I never knew about some of them from listening to the
that's
podcast.
Awesome.
So I agree with you, but it is so much less scary when you just see how real they are and how human they are and what they need.
Yes.
And reaching out to them. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very, like, what you're doing is amazing with this podcast. I think it's really incredible, and I commend you for it. It's a big deal.
Well, thank you for the show. I feel like I don't want to put added pressure on you, but at the same time, I can't not recognize what a big deal it is, what you've done and what A&E has done. I feel like we had such breakthroughs early in the field of studying this. I mean, it's been around longer than that, but in the early years of studying it, and then there were some breakthroughs of attempts, like the field exploded of trying to understand and trying to help and trying to put pieces together. And then we had the whole backlash of, no, don't talk about it because it's scary and you're going to get in trouble, which re-traumatized so many. And then the response to that with more stigma and movies that are so cruel in how they depict it, or TV shows or things. And so to have an honest, raw, and real depiction of what DID is like, what it looks like from the outside, what it feels like from the inside, is such a gift to so many people, and kind of changes the whole hashtag me too to the hashtag we too. Like,
absolutely. Yes.
It's a powerful thing, and I am so grateful to you and to A&E and for your courage in doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's it's been it's been such a wild ride and such an interesting journey. But I feel like, with just FYI for the next episode on Tuesday, the next two episodes, because they go back to back, 5 and 6 due on Tuesday, but that one's going to be a really hard one. I don't have recollection usually when one of my parts, Ashley, is out, and she opened up in a way that I didn't realize during production, and said things that, like, I had no idea what she had said in the diary cam. And so when I watched it, I just broke down and cried. I was like, this is like, it's powerful, but it's like almost like so mortifying that this is my life that's about to be out there, of something so intimate, of like the trauma. And so, just an FYI, there is like, it'll be pretty triggering for a lot of people.
Thanks for the heads up. I'm grateful even for her courage in sharing, and to say things out loud when so many of us have been told for so long not to say anything.
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing.
It really is, and that part has grown so much because of that. So it's, it's a good thing. It's been so fun for me, like such a good experience to be able to talk to someone like-minded.
I am so glad. I appreciate it, and I didn't know we had so many things in common either. That was pretty funny.
You can find a link to the article that Jane mentioned, as well as more information about A&E and Jane and her show, on the blog systemspeak.org. Thanks for listening.
Trying to turn the camera, and I'm like...
Thank you for joining us with System Speak, a podcast about dissociative identity disorder.
Why is it so hard?
You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes, or follow along on our website.
Is it just because I'm nervous?
www.systemspeak.org. Thanks for listening.
I do need to wrap up soon for now. Obviously, I'm not gonna close out the game, just pause it. Stop the recording. Record some more later. Man, I feel proud of myself, though, for making it to floor 38 without getting hit. It feels pretty good. Like, I feel like most of the tower comes pretty naturally for me at this point, except for, like, the last 10 floors. Because I haven't had as much experience with them. And also, like... Okay, you tilt the camera down to go up and up to go down. Like, it feels... The camera feels normal when I'm just here. But when I'm on the wall and I have to act fast before I hit that pole, it's like I forget how to work the camera at all. I don't know why. So, I think I'll wait for my fairy to respawn. And then I will pause it, because I feel like if I pause it now, I'll forget that I have to wait for the fairy to respawn. As much as I want to conquer this, I think it'll be good to take like a break for an hour or two to like get my head back to normal or something. I don't even know how to explain it. Also, yeah, I didn't even say how that the last time I died. Well, I haven't been setting flags at all.
This looks like a good spot.
I was gonna say the last time I died, or I can't remember if it was. Yeah, it was the death that respawned me, not the death that made me start over. I think it was because I was going to the bathroom while I was waiting for the fairy to respawn, and then I came back and forgot that I was waiting for the fairy to respawn, so I just kept going. From what I remember, actually, the rest might not be so bad. Like, I think it was mainly 43 that was bad, and then I barely even remember the rest, 44, 45, and 46. But if I don't remember anything, it's probably not that bad. Um, I I died at like I don't remember what floor I died on, but I remember it was not 46. I remember I fell a few floors and then died. I think on 46 I just glided. There's so many times where I will glide to try to, you know, cover a gap or whatever, and then I can't move or jump or do anything until I land. And so I just fall for a long time. As you have already seen. I'm just trying to like talk while I'm waiting for my fairy to come back about anything that happened that I wasn't talking about. Um the glide is so interesting in this version. I don't know how to feel about it. Like if you glide and then jump at a specific moment in the animation, um you can triple jump out of the glide, but if you don't jump, you're just stuck falling it forever. It's like it's kind of weird how that works. I wish the timing either wasn't as strict or was more clear what you have to be doing to, but anyway, yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording for now. Probably be back in a couple hours. Not like it matters for y'all because I'm just uploading these on the internet, but I like to pretend I'm streaming, I guess. I don't know.